Hello everyone. Tonight we are traveling to a quiet path where clay presses underfoot, where the morning mist still clings to the grass, and a group of monks gathers beneath a banyan tree. They're not reciting scripture or meditating yet. They're tending to their sandals. Chipped edges, cracked soles, clay straps stiff from long walks. You probably wouldn't survive 5 minutes barefoot on these ancient paths, but you're here now, so no need to rush. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where you're listening from. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You lower yourself onto a sun-warmed stone, and the smell of damp soil rises softly from the ground. A breeze rustles the robes of the monks around you, and you notice that every single one of them is handling their sandals as if they were ancient relics. Not in a hurried, fix-it-quick kind of way, but slowly, reverently. One monk scrapes dirt gently from the sole using a twig. Another smooths the strap where it's cracking, muttering something about the teaching of wear. You tilt your head. That's a curious phrase, teaching of wear. It sounds like something you'd see on a motivational tea label. But here, it feels real. You glance at your own feet and imagine what your sandals would say about your path. Buddhists still debate whether monks in early communities were required to make their own sandals or just mend them. But either way, they were always instructed to keep them simple. Clay, straw, bark, no embroidery, no colors. Just enough protection to keep your soles from blistering on the midday rocks, but not so comfortable that you forget the ground is always beneath you. A soft, flaking rustle brings your attention to the elder. His sandals look as though they've been worn since the reign of Ashoka. He's not replacing them. He's brushing them with a piece of cloth that was probably once part of a robe. There's no rush in his hands. You half expect him to start humming something. He doesn't. Did you know? In some older monasteries in Burma and India, sandal repair was considered part of morning chores, alongside sweeping the halls or preparing tea for the sick. It wasn't about keeping clean. It was about staying humble. A reminder, even monks carry weight. Someone chuckles gently to your right. One of the younger monks has tried gluing his sandal with boiled rice water, and it's sticking to his robe. He blushes. The elder just pats him on the back and hands over a proper cord of jute fiber. No scolding, just a new chance to get it right. You get the feeling that messing up your sandal isn't the mistake. Pretending it's fine? That's the real misstep. You touch the clay edge of a discarded pair. It's cool, still shaped from the last foot that wore it. Somehow, even the indent of the toes lingers, like fossilized prayer. Historians still argue whether early Buddhist communities adopted sandals from Vedic traditions or tribal customs. But one thing's certain, they all walked, a lot. Whether from village to village for alms or up forest paths for solitude, the sandal became more than a shoe. It became a companion. A surprising little detail floats in from memory. In one Southeast Asian village, it's said that monks would exchange sandals once a year during a silent ritual, just to remind themselves that no path belongs to one person alone. Imagine wearing someone else's journey for a day or a year. You close your eyes for a moment and try to hear what's underneath the morning sounds. The chirp of a mina bird, the hiss of boiling herbs in a pot nearby, and the soft, regular tap of sandal soles being tapped clean against tree trunks. Another light laugh. A senior monk holds up a sandal with a hole so perfectly round that he calls it the moon gate. He's kept it for years because, according to him, every step through the hole lets karma pass through unharmed. You suspect it's an excuse not to fix it, but it's a poetic one. You're offered a small cup of barley tea. It smells like earth and old stories. You sip slowly, letting the warmth coat your tongue, and your eyes fall again on the quiet rituals around you. No phones, no meetings, just a group of people making sure their clay soles are ready to carry them through another week of silence and service. You catch yourself thinking, when was the last time you really looked at your shoes? Like, really looked at them? Not for style or price or brand, but for what they carry, where they've been, what they've heard. There's something grounding here, literal grounding. The sandals aren't just footwear, they're a practice, a lesson. a slow, slightly awkward, often dusty metaphor for humility itself. As the sun rises higher and the warmth touches your cheeks, the monks begin standing, sandals retied, some slightly off-center, but no one corrects it. There's no right way to walk, just the walk you choose to keep making. The path ahead glows pale and ready, and as you step forward, the clay gives slightly under your heel. The tiniest puff of dust rises and drifts behind you like memory. Waiting for continue. You catch up with the elder monk just as he reaches the edge of the compound, his newly retied sandals thudding gently against the clay path. There's a smoothness to his walk, not quite floating, but close. It's not that his steps are light, it's that he carries them as if everyone already knows where it's going. You try matching his rhythm, but your sandal squeaks on a pebble and betrays your inexperience. He looks back and smiles, not with teeth, just eyes. The kind of smile that says, "Ah, you're learning." You find yourself smiling back before you know why. The trail curves past a field of sleeping lotuses, and your eyes catch on a flicker of orange cloth hanging from a drying line. It dances like a flag of peace in the early breeze. The elder pauses by a stone bench that's cracked in the middle, but still somehow whole. He settles down, adjusts his robe, and gestures for you to join him. There, he begins to tell a story, but not with words, just gestures. First, he taps his own sandals. Then he holds up 2 fingers. Then he closes his eyes. It takes a moment, but you understand. He's remembering someone. This is the story, told through shared silence, slow breath, and eventually words from another monk seated nearby, translating what's been passed down. The monk who never upgraded, never bought, borrowed, or begged for another pair of sandals. Lived his entire monastic life in the same pair, clay-bound, handmade, patched over so many times they barely resembled shoes by the end. Yet he walked, every day, to the river, to the village, to the sick and the dying, to alms rounds and funeral chants. When asked why he never replaced them, he simply replied, "They fit the path I've chosen. The more they wear, the less I do." Buddhists still debate whether such stories are literal or symbolic. Was there truly a monk who kept the same sandals for 40 years? Or is it a metaphor for the idea that simplicity, once chosen, deepens with time? No one knows for sure, but every temple seems to have its own version of this tale. You glance down at your own feet again, half expecting your sandals to start whispering. They don't, but you do notice a tiny crack forming near the toe. Suddenly, it doesn't feel like a flaw. It feels like the beginning of something wise. The elder, having finished his gesture story, begins humming a slow, low tune. It's not a chant. It's not a song. It's a vibration, like bees murmuring inside the hollow belly of a drum. You don't know the words, but you feel the shape of them in your ribs. Did you know, in some Thai monasteries, monks used to carve lines into their sandals every year, one for each realization or mistake? The sandals became diaries, silent confessions, footnotes, literally. You run a finger along your own strap and imagine what you'd carve. A curve for every moment you rushed, a notch for each time you missed the point. A novice arrives carrying 2 small bowls. One has sesame rice, warm and sticky. The other holds slices of pale mango, soft as moonlight. No words are exchanged, just nods. You eat slowly. Each bite feels heavier than it is, like your mouth is learning to taste patience. And then another story arrives. A monk, perhaps 100 years ago, who had a chance to travel. An invitation from a royal family to study in the capital. Carriage ready, gifts offered. And yet, the monk refused. Why? Because the journey required shoes, formal ones, leather. He replied, "If my feet are too humble to enter your halls, my words won't be welcome either." The elders in the story laughed when they told it. You're not sure if they were laughing at his stubbornness or his truth. A squirrel dashes past, carrying something suspiciously sandal-shaped. Everyone pauses to watch. One monk mutters something about the squirrel learning detachment too early. The elder chuckles. Lesson learned. Even squirrels borrow what isn't theirs. Buddhists still debate whether attachment begins at the foot or the heart. Some say if you can walk away from a thing, you're free. Others argue it's how gently you walk with it that defines your relationship. You lean back on the bench and notice the small hollow where countless robes have rested before yours. There's a dip right in the center, as if the stone itself has softened with use. Odd fact, in an old Tibetan monastery, There's a sandal preserved in a glass box, not for worship, but to remind visitors that even the highest teacher once had blisters. The sun climbs higher now, shadows shorten, and still, the elder does not move. He watches ants cross a crack in the bench. You follow his gaze, and for some reason, it makes you want to cry, or nap. You can't tell which. He finally speaks softly. Do not hurry to wear out your steps. Let them wear you gently. You nod. You don't know what it means yet, but you know it's true. The sandals beside you, still drying in the sun, seem to nod as well. Waiting for continue. Part 3. You leave the stone bench behind, and your steps fall into rhythm with the forest path now stretching ahead. Packed earth with cracks like tiny rivers and fallen leaves flattened into a carpet of quiet. Each time your sandal lands, there's a soft thud, followed by a delicate puff of dust that clings to the hem of your robe. You're following others now, young novices mostly. They walk in pairs, their heads shaved smooth, their chatter kept to a respectful whisper. The older monks let them trail ahead, letting them learn the path on their own. One novice pauses, kneels to tighten his strap, and laughs when it comes undone anyway. The other nudges him with an elbow and whispers something that sounds suspiciously like a joke about sandal karma. You walk a little slower. This is forest monastery land. Thick bamboo groves rising up like green pillars, their leaves clattering softly in the breeze like wind chimes. The trail bends and rises, and just ahead is a place they call Footprint Ridge. You reach it and stop. The ground here is unusually flat, almost polished, as if hundreds of souls have worn it into memory. And they have. For generations, monks have walked this ridge barefoot, not because they lack shoes, but because this stretch of trail is sacred. There's a myth that an enlightened teacher once meditated on this path for 7 years straight, walking a circle each morning before sunrise, never speaking a word. Buddhists still debate whether this teacher even existed, or whether the story is just a metaphor for internal transformation. Either way, every monk who passes here removes their sandals, without instruction. It's like the path itself reminds you. You do the same. The earth is cool underfoot. Pebbles press into your skin with surprising clarity. Your balance shifts. Every step becomes deliberate. Heel first, then the ball, then toes. Suddenly, you're not walking. You're listening, with your feet. One novice in front of you slips slightly. He grunts and mutters something about these sneaky roots. His companion grins and says, maybe they're testing if you're still present. You almost laugh, but you're too busy focusing on your own steps. The world slows down. Your thoughts stop galloping and start grazing. Somewhere behind you, a crow calls out, long and echoing, like it's announcing your arrival to no one in particular. A light breeze passes and a bamboo leaf glides down to land squarely on the instep of your right foot. You leave it there. It feels correct. Did you know, in a few remote temples in Laos, monks practiced a ritual of tracing their footpaths with colored rice powder each morning, then erasing them after meditation to symbolize impermanence? You imagine a swirl of blue, gold, red lines fading under rain or a passing dog's tail. Beautiful, useless, perfect. There's an old saying passed down in silence here. Your first step is borrowed, your last step is returned. You think of your own sandals back by the bench, sunning themselves like sleepy lizards. Would they still fit you after this? Eventually, the path slopes gently downward into a glade ringed by stones. There are no signs, but you sense this place has been used for generations. The moss here feels ancient. It softens the air. The novices form a circle, still barefoot. An older monk joins them silent at first, then suddenly speaks. How many footsteps in a lifetime? No one answers, he continues. And how many of those actually touch the ground? Still no answer, just slow breaths and curious eyes. He smiles, points at his own feet, then taps a flat stone in the center of the glade. There's a shallow imprint there, 2, actually. Roughly sandal-shaped, weathered smooth but unmistakable. A teacher stood here and waited. That's all. You kneel beside it. Run your fingers across the indent. It's not deep, not dramatic. You could miss it entirely if you didn't know where to look. But now that you do, it feels like a doorway. An odd fact floats back into your mind. One 12th century forest monastery used to bake sandal-shaped bread during festival days, and monks would eat them in silence to reflect on the journey of nourishment. You wonder if it was delicious or just flower and meaning? Probably both. Nearby, a novice sits on a rock, removing a thorn from his heel. You offer him your cloth, and he nods, grateful. It strikes you how fragile feet are, how easily they carry weight without complaint, until something tiny stops them cold. And still, they go on. You shift position, feeling the ground beneath your knees. It's uneven, slightly damp, speckled with bits of old bark and crushed flowers. A beetle crawls past unbothered by your enormous presence. You envy it slightly. Buddhists still debate whether this emphasis on humble travel is about detachment from luxury or a deeper acknowledgement that enlightenment doesn't require distance, only attentiveness. Some say the whole path is walked in place. Others insist the journey shapes the mind. You decide not to decide. The group rises. No signal, just a shared breath. You all walk again, slowly, back toward the ridge. The sandals wait where you left them. You slide your feet back into them, noticing how different they feel now. Not tighter or looser, but changed. Or maybe it's you. You fall into line behind the elder again, your steps matching his this time. Quiet, present, and slightly lighter. A novice whispers behind you, "I think I just stepped on an ant." Someone responds, "It probably forgives you." You smile, let the breeze pass through you, and keep walking. Waiting for continue, part 4. You step off the forest trail into a clearing where golden sunlight filters through layers of mist, catching on spiderwebs strung between bamboo stalks like tiny suspension bridges. The dew has yet to burn off, and every surface gleams faintly, like the whole world has just been unwrapped. In the center of the clearing sits an ancient pavilion, a squat wooden structure with a gently curved roof and wooden planks worn smooth by generations of bare feet. The monks call it the resting hut, though no one seems to rest much in it. Instead, it's used for cleaning, repairing, and sometimes sorting sandals. You didn't know sorting sandals was a thing, but apparently it is. Inside the pavilion are several shallow bins filled with worn-out sandals, mismatched straps, broken buckles, and even a few that seem to be mostly glue and prayer. An elderly nun sits cross-legged beside them, sorting with the precision of a jeweler, but the rhythm of someone deeply unbothered by time. Her hands move like she's folding air. You kneel beside her, unsure whether to speak. She doesn't look up, just slides a sandal towards you and says, "This one still remembers." You blink. She finally glances your way and grins slightly. "You'll see." She reaches into another bin and pulls out a small bundle wrapped in red cloth. Inside, sandal soles made not from straw or bark, but from carefully stitched, overlapping layers of paper. Buddhist scripture paper, to be exact, yellowed and softened with time. You touch it reverently. The fibers are delicate, yet they've been hardened by use, like wisdom that started as theory and became lived experience. Buddhists still debate whether paper sandals were ever commonly worn or just used in symbolic rituals. But here, the nun tells you they belong to a monk known for walking through monsoon storms, quoting verses with every squish. She laughs softly. Rain never washed the Dharma off his feet. A novice enters carrying a tray of sandals that smell faintly of ginger and wet clay. You watch as he bows slightly to the nun before placing them in the bin marked almost fine. There's no perfect bin. You get the sense perfection isn't welcome here. Did you know, in 9th century Korea, some monasteries used to donate their worn-out sandals to village children who had none? The straps were shortened, the soles scrubbed clean, and then each pair was blessed with a whisper, "May your path be soft." You glance at the almost fine pile again. Every sandal has a story, some of which seem to be written in mud or scratched into the fabric with persistence. One sandal has a small notch carved into the side, someone's way of marking left from right. Another has a few faded blue threads sewn into the heel, barely visible unless the light hits just right. A curious detail surfaces. One monastery recorded a sandal census every year. Yes, a census for sandals. How many pairs, how many patches, how many unaccounted for, as if tracking a town's population. You wonder if your sandals would count as present but dreaming. Outside the pavilion, 2 young monks are arguing softly about which is better, to walk slowly and observe everything, or to walk quickly and arrive with less dust on your feet. The elder nun smiles but doesn't join in. They'll both reach the same gate, she says, but one will forget why he knocked. You shift position, your own sandals in hand. The sole has started to curl slightly at the edge, like it's trying to become a scroll. You flatten it gently and wonder what parts of your life have curled up like that, quiet and unread. The nun taps the bin beside her, this one labeled retired. You peek in and see sandals that seem serene, softened into rounded shapes, straps faded to ghost laces, soles worn so evenly they could have floated. It's like the sandals themselves have entered a state of monkhood. She picks one up, holds it to her cheek like a seashell, and whispers, "He was quiet, very kind, died mid-walk." She replaces it and smiles. Buddhists still debate whether it's more meaningful to cremate a monk with his sandals or pass them on to a student. Some lineages favor continuity, others prefer closure. But the sandals always go somewhere, never discarded without thought. You realize the entire pavilion feels like a waiting room for reincarnation, but just for shoes, and maybe for stories. A small breeze passes through, stirring the hanging chimes made from old sandal straps. They clack lightly, like wind writing haiku. You listen. Left foot, right foot, same dust clings to every path, even clouds leave tracks. You lean back, pressing your palms to the smooth wood. It's warm, and suddenly the idea of repairing instead of replacing feels like more than just thriftiness. It's a kind of reverence for wear, for use, for the quiet parts of things. The nun reaches into the red cloth again and hands you a final oddity, a sandal carved from wood but painted with the illusion of softness, shadows, cracks, stitching, entirely false. "This one never walked," she says, "but it taught." She places it on the ledge, where it sits like a sculpture of potential. You rise, sandals in hand, and thank her with a bow. She waves you off with a lazy flick, already turning her attention back to a sandal with 3 toes worth of wear and a 4th that looks suspiciously like someone who walks sideways. You step into the sunlight again, the forest brighter now, your own sandals feeling not just mended, but heard. Waiting for continue. Part 5. You step beyond the pavilion and back into the filtered morning light. The forest shifts tone here, less orderly bamboo, more tangled trees with thick roots that rise from the earth like sleeping dragons. The path bends again, and soon you're walking between low stone walls covered in moss, leading toward what the monks referred to as the Hall of Lost Sandals. It sounds dramatic, but the truth is quieter. It's not a hall so much as a shaded enclosure built into the side of a hill, open on one end and protected by a slanted roof of wooden shingles. Rain trickles off the edge even when it's not raining. A thin mist always seems to cling to the air here, even on the sunniest days, as if the memories themselves are exhaling. Inside are shelves, endless shelves, lined with sandals. Not pairs, just singles. Left or right, never both. Some are broken, others look almost new. Some are tiny, probably belonging to child novices. A few are oddly shaped, worn by monks with injured feet or who limped with purpose. Each sandal rests in its own space, never stacked or crammed together, like each was laid to rest intentionally. You step forward, the air suddenly cooler. A carved sign above the entrance reads, "What is lost is not always gone." The story goes that when monks wandered into the jungle or took long solitary retreats, they'd often return with one sandal missing. Not always lost, sometimes gifted to someone they met, sometimes swallowed by mud or left behind as an offering or simply vanished. The remaining sandal would be placed here on this shelf as a kind of silent testimony. Buddhists still debate whether these shelves are meant to honor the journey or gently tease the absent-mindedness of monks. One theory suggests it's both, that loss is a kind of teaching tool as long as it's done mindfully. You spot a sandal so worn it's almost transparent. Its strap is tied together with a piece of faded saffron robe. A tag hangs from it, handwritten in calligraphy so light it's barely there. You lean close. It reads, "He left with questions and never came back. We hope he found the answers." Chill prickles your arms, not fear, just reverence. Did you know in some forest traditions, it's said that monks nearing enlightenment could walk barefoot without harm, even through thorns and stones? A symbolic idea, perhaps, but it lingers in the back of your mind as you gaze at a sandal whose sole is perfectly intact, but whose strap is broken clean in half, as if removed in a single deliberate gesture. One monk once joked that this place is the only museum where everything comes in ones and smells like wet rope. You remember that now and smirk. A quiet humor lives here, tucked among the rows like a monk who fell asleep meditating and never left. A novice walks past, holding a candle that isn't lit. He pauses at a shelf, places a single sandal made from palm bark beside the others, and bows. Then he walks away without a word. You get the feeling the story behind that sandal was important, but not yours to know. Odd fact, in 14th century Burma, a sandal belonging to a revered nun was used as a votive offering during drought. Villagers believed her discipline was so pure that her leftovers held spiritual moisture. Rain followed 2 days later. Coincidence? Maybe. But you smile anyway. You walk slowly through the rows, your footsteps muffled by woven mats placed beneath every shelf. At the far end is a space with no shelves at all, just a smooth wooden floor and a circle of cushions. It's the listening spot. Monks come here to reflect on what's been forgotten, lost, or left behind. Not just sandals, but intentions, habits, regrets. You sit down on one of the cushions, the fabric soft and worn, and feel a warmth that isn't yours. A presence of memories that aren't quite personal, yet still somehow familiar. You close your eyes. In the silence you hear it, the shuffle of countless feet across centuries, the soft slap of sandals on stone, the quiet of decisions made with full hearts. Someone once said that to walk away from something is often the bravest act, but to leave a sandal behind, that's when you know you were meant to return. Buddhists still debate whether the Hall of Lost Sandals encourages detachment or nostalgia, whether we're meant to remember or release. But maybe the answer doesn't matter. Maybe both are true. You imagine your own sandal here someday, not because you're careless, but because you reached a point when letting go felt natural, peaceful even. A small breeze stirs, moving through the open side of the hall like a sigh. It carries the scent of sandalwood, aged rope, and faint earth. You breathe in slowly, and for a moment, the present feels stretched across centuries, held together by one shared step at a time. Someone once quipped that monks leave more sandals than footprints. You think about that and realize it might be true, but maybe that's the point. Let the world remember the shape of your movement, even after your feet have moved on. The candle the novice left behind suddenly flickers to life. No one lit it, or maybe someone did. Waiting for continue. Part 6, you leave the Hall of Lost Sandals through a side gate. No lock, no hinges, just a gentle bamboo frame that seems to part when you're ready to pass through. Your steps lead downward now, along a sloping trail where small flagstones peek out between tufts of moss. You notice that you're humming, just faintly. A tune you don't recognize, but your feet seem to know. The path ends in an open grove where several monks are gathered around a fire pit. Not blazing, but smoldering, the coals glowing like scattered rubies. No one speaks. You settle quietly beside them, cross-legged, and watch as one monk places a bundle into the flames. It's a pair of sandals, charred leather curls like leaves in autumn. The strap vanishes first. Then the soles blacken, pop softly, and fall inward. Ash floats upward like insects returning to the sky. This, it turns out, is a letting go fire. Here monks burn the sandals of loved ones who have passed on, not always from death, sometimes just from distance. A teacher who never returned, a sibling who renounced the path, or even your own old pair when you're ready to leave behind who you used to be. Buddhists still debate whether the ritual began as practical disposal or sacred symbolism. Either way, it's now something more. A space where memory becomes smoke and grief turns into warmth you can feel on your cheeks. A young monk next to you cradles a single sandal in his lap. It's small, clearly handmade, and bound with reed rope. He turns it over once, then whispers something into the heel, too softly for you to hear, and places it gently onto the coals. His shoulders shake just slightly, then still. No one offers him comfort. No one needs to. The fire does the work. You glance across the circle. One monk holds a sandal carved from wood and inlaid with tiny jade chips, clearly ceremonial, possibly a gift from a royal court. Another clutches something that looks like a child's shoe, the kind with fabric sides and inked poems stitched into the sole. You think of all the poems you've never read, all the ones you've forgotten. Did you know, in a remote Tibetan monastery, it was once customary to write a koan, one of those impossible Zen riddles, onto the inside of a sandal before burning it, in hopes that the answer might rise with the smoke and return in dreams? You imagine your dreams tonight filled with questions that have no solutions and answers that require no words. As the fire settles lower, a monk fans the embers using a broad leaf from a Bodhi tree. The leaf moves in slow arcs, and the glow pulses in time with the breath of the grove. The smoke smells faintly of old journeys and sandalwood oil, strangely comforting, like someone else's memories settling into your skin. Buddhists still debate whether these rituals are meant to be shared publicly or practiced in solitude. Some lineages prefer to burn alone, in silence. Others gather like this, turning the act into communal grieving and release. You feel the weight of both traditions in the air. A fringe theory bubbles up in your memory. One ancient monastic record claimed that sandal ash, when mixed with rosewater and applied to the forehead, could bring vivid memories of past lives. No one really believes it, but also no one's dared to disprove it. You smile just a little and rub some ash from your fingertips into your palm. The wind shifts and a curl of smoke wraps around your face like a scarf. You close your eyes and breathe in. You think you can smell the stories. When you open them again, a monk is holding out a fresh pair of sandals, simple, straw-bottomed, with soft fabric ties dyed a dusky orange. For your next steps, he says, not asking if you're ready, just offering. You accept them without speaking. Nearby, another monk tosses a broken strap into the fire and mutters, "Finally! That thing's been trying to assassinate my toe for weeks." A ripple of sleepy laughter circles the fire. It doesn't break the stillness, it joins it. You think of all the things in your own life you've worn past their usefulness, not just sandals, but habits, fears, expectations, things that pinched or slipped or never fit quite right. You wonder what it would feel like to toss those into the flames too. Lighten the load, walk softer. Someone begins to hum, low and steady, like a melody remembered from a previous life. You find your breath matching its rhythm. The fire pops gently. The coals shift and sigh. And slowly the sandals turn to powder in memory. A breeze carries a ribbon of ash across your knees. You watch it settle into the grass like seeds. Not an ending, just a change of form. Then, as if by shared instinct, the circle rises. No signal, just a shared sense that this part is done. You stand, new sandals in hand, soot on your palms, breath calm, lighter, as if you're no longer walking just for yourself, but for everyone who's ever left something behind. Waiting for continue, part 7. You follow the others up a narrow path that coils like a ribbon through the trees, each step quiet, deliberate and soft. Your new sandals make a faint brushing sound on the earth, as if they're whispering secrets with every footfall. You don't rush, no one does. It's as though everyone agrees that the silence is doing important work. The trail leads to a weathered wooden gate nestled into a hillside, no taller than your chest, and clearly not meant for defense. Instead, it serves more like a polite reminder. Here, you step differently. You duck slightly to pass through, brushing your fingertips against the smooth lintel, and enter what the monks call the archive of everyday steps, not an archive in the dusty shelf sense, but a garden. Yes, a garden. But not with tulips or neat hedgerows. This garden is arranged entirely from worn-out sandals. Hundreds, no, thousands of them, carefully placed into spiraling paths and intricate mandala shapes. Leather thongs, straw bases, paper soles, all placed heel to toe in gently winding designs that shift as sunlight passes through the trees. It's like walking through someone else's memory, someone whose only stories are told through footprints. You follow one spiral inward. Each step feels like turning a page in a book where the words have been replaced by textures. Smooth, cracked, damp, feather-like. Some sandals have writing inked on the soles, phrases that now face the sky. Others have tiny carvings, like someone thought their feet deserved poems. A novice sweeping the edge of the spiral nods to you. This section belonged to a monk who walked without speaking for 20 years. Then he pauses, frowns slightly, and adds, "Except on Tuesdays. He loves soup too much." You smile. The monks around here don't pretend to be saints. They just walk. And sometimes they eat loudly. A small sign on a bamboo post reads, "Each step is a sentence. Together, they write a life." Buddhists still debate whether these garden spirals began as a meditation tool or a way to store worn sandals respectfully. One scroll suggests it started accidentally, Someone laid their pear down to dry, forgot about it, and it became part of a growing pattern. Like kindness left behind, slowly collecting into art. You step deeper into the spiral, where the paths grow tighter and quieter. Birds hush. Even the breeze seems hesitant to intrude. In the center of the largest mandala is a small stone seat, weathered smooth, moss growing in one corner. You lower yourself onto it and feel oddly like you're sitting on the floor of an invisible temple. All around you, loops of footsteps, lives lived, choices made. Did you know, in a mountain hermitage outside Sri Lanka, monks used to meditate while slowly walking figure eights traced in sandal paths laid by their predecessors? Not for guidance, but for humility. The idea being that no matter where you step, someone wiser has already stubbed their toe there. A tiny lizard scampers across the path, its tail dragging across a sandal once belonging to a wandering teacher. You read the name burned faintly into the soul. Then you read another. Some are names, some are verses, some just say, "I tried." A fringe belief, whispered among novices. If you walk the spiral just right, on a new moon, barefoot and without blinking, you'll dream of the sandals' owners and wake up knowing one thing they loved and one thing they feared. Of course, that sounds like a prank. Still, you wonder who started it. You lean back and look up. Above you, thin prayer flags flutter from bamboo poles, casting moving shadows across the garden. You watch them dance on the sandals, and the paths shift again. One pair of red-stitched soles now looks like wings. Another, half covered in moss, resembles a cradle. Shapes transform depending on your angle, like the meaning of a journey, depending on how far you are from it. Buddhists still debate whether a person's steps carry karma, or whether the intention behind the step matters more. Some lineages trace karmic flow through footprints, others dismiss it as symbolic. But here, you feel like the sandals have held more than weight. They've absorbed whispers. Another monk passes through, this one humming quietly. You catch only the last few notes, a melody with no clear origin, like something passed down from monk to monk without ever being written. You close your eyes, and the garden seems to breathe. You think of your own footsteps. What would your sandals say about you if left here? Would someone read your steps as purposeful, hesitant, joyful? Would your right foot always be slightly more worn, like it is now? A breeze tugs at your robe. You stand slowly, feeling your joints speak in small creaks, and begin to walk back along a different spiral path, one that winds outward. With each step, you feel like you're letting go of something tiny and unnameable. Not grief, not memory, just the small noise of having too many questions at once. The sandals beneath you don't answer anything, but they remind you that not every answer needs to be rushed toward. And sometimes, the walk is the wisdom. Waiting for continue. Part 8. You step away from the garden of sandals, emerging through another low gate. This one painted with faded brushstrokes, barely legible, but you think it says something like, "Even silence leaves a footprint." The air grows warmer as the path descends slightly toward what the monks jokingly call the kitchen of enlightenment. Of course, it's not a kitchen in the way your modern brain might expect. There are no stainless steel counters, no aprons or timers or frantic chopping sounds. Just a broad open-air pavilion with smooth stone floors and rows of worn, rounded pots, each one set into a sunken clay hearth. A monk greets you with a gentle nod and an odd question. Do you stir before the boil? You don't answer. You're not sure if it's literal or metaphorical, or maybe both. That's how it is around here. Everything tastes like a riddle, especially the food. The smell is what hits you first. Not strong or spicy, but warm and slow, like roasted rice and simmered yam. Somewhere, peanuts are being crushed. A faint scent of salt drifts through, mixed with whatever root vegetable is currently dissolving into soup. You sit at the low table while the cook, barefoot and smiling like he just solved a very private joke, gently ladles something thick into a handmade bowl. It looks like gruel, but smells like kindness. Chew it with your nose first, he whispers. You do, and surprisingly, it works. The flavors rise before you even taste them. A curious blend of ginger, wild greens, and something your tongue labels leaf memory. Did you know, in ancient Buddhist kitchens, it was believed that a meal's energy came not only from ingredients, but from how you handled silence while preparing it? If you sneezed while boiling rice, the meal might come out confused. If you cried, the broth would thicken. If you laughed genuinely, the stew would bloom early. Wild, right? Buddhists still debate whether food made in mindful silence truly affects meditation depth. Some claim digestive clarity improves insight. Others just say it keeps the kitchen blissfully quiet. You sip again and decide, maybe both are true. A novice walks by carrying a basket of lotus roots. She smiles shyly, then almost trips over a sleeping cat stretched across the path. No one reacts. The cat's name is Garuda, and yes, he's definitely in charge. Your bowl is nearly empty now, and somehow you don't remember finishing it. One of those dishes that disappears between questions. You stand to help wash. It's tradition. The water flows through a bamboo chute into a basin that smells faintly of lemongrass and ash. You scrub your bowl with a twig bundle, each bristle handmade from dried stalks and humility. A fringed tale surfaces in your memory. In a monastery near ancient Lumbini, monks would sometimes bury their rice bowls for 7 days before pilgrimage, believing the earth would season it with patience. No one's sure if the practice was spiritual or just a clever way to discourage overeating on long walks. As you rinse, a monk beside you hums. Not a melody, just a steady two-note rhythm. It matches the water's drip. You find yourself breathing to it. On a nearby shelf sits an old cracked bowl, mounted like a trophy. A plaque beneath reads, "The only bowl that never spilled." When you ask, the cook chuckles and says, "It's because no one ever used it." You glance around. Everything here feels like it's been touched 1,000 times by slow hands. The ladles have worn grooves. The stone floors are polished smooth by slippered feet. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is wasted. Even the scraps, banana peels, onion skins, old tea leaves, are composted into a corner garden called the Field of Second Chances. You walk by that garden now. The soil is impossibly dark, almost blue in the early light, and dotted with tiny green shoots. A hand-painted sign says, "All things can be food twice." Buddhists still debate whether cooking can be a form of meditation or simply a test of patience. In this monastery, it's both, a sacred chore and a daily koan. Stirring, waiting, seasoning, listening to soup as if it might confess something, and sometimes it does. You pass the spice rack, tiny porcelain jars lined up with no labels, only symbols. A swirl means warming. A downward arrow means sleep. One jar has a cloud painted on it. You're told that's the powder of dried fig skin. Apparently, it helps dreams arrive politely. You imagine a monk seasoning dreams by moonlight. Maybe they do. Maybe you'll taste it in sleep. As you prepare to leave the kitchen, the cook stops you and places a warm rice cake into your hand. It's soft, sweet, and wrapped in a single leaf tied with reed thread. For the path, he says, it knows where your mouth is. And just like that, you're walking again, cake in hand, body warm, mind softened like broth after a long simmer. You don't know what time it is. You don't care. Your belly is full, your breath is easy, and your steps, while still yours, feel more like part of a rhythm than a direction. You've eaten with monks who speak with their eyebrows, cats who nap like enlightened beings, soup that thinks in metaphors, and fire that listens. And you're only partway through the day, waiting for continue. Part 9. The path from the kitchen slopes gently uphill now, curling around a ridge cloaked in bamboo and morning mist. Your feet land softly, guided more by breath than direction. You hum faintly. Maybe that rice cake was enchanted, or maybe you're just finally digesting peace. As you crest the hill, the monastery opens up below like a scene painted by someone half asleep. Layered rooftops, lazy curls of incense smoke, and the distant murmur of chanting that's less performance and more weather. You pause by a small stone marker shaped like a fish with its mouth open. A sign next to it reads, "Swim through the air, breathe beneath thought." It makes exactly the right amount of sense, none but somehow enough. A breeze stirs your robe and carries you onward to what looks like a humble bathhouse, or more accurately, the house of cleansing confusions. This isn't a place for scrubbing armpits or shouting across steam rooms. It's quiet here, very quiet, and very old. Inside, smooth river stones line the floor, and warm pools ripple with steam from mineral springs said to rise from fault lines beneath forgotten temples. You ease into the water, careful not to splash. Here ripples are sacred texts, not to be disturbed without reason. The heat wraps around you like a soft argument, and your muscles. Those stubborn archivists of daily nonsense finally agree to let go of their latest complaints. You lean back until your ears slip below the surface and the world becomes muffled and slow, like listening to history from underwater. Buddhists still debate whether these baths began as medical therapy or spiritual preparation. Some texts suggest monks used them before extended meditation to soften both joints and thoughts. Others hint they were used to simulate rebirth, soaking, shedding, surfacing again. You float. A novice monk to your left suddenly sneezes with the tiniest chew and immediately bows in apology to the steam itself. You try not to laugh, but your chest bobs once. He grins without opening his eyes. Did you know, in the Tang dynasty, a particular sect of monastics refused to bathe for more than 13 seconds, believing longer contact with warm water might dilute their memory of cold mountain discipline? That trend died fast, literally and hygienically. You roll gently toward the edge where a monk is polishing an old tile mural with a cloth soaked in citrus oil. The mural shows a line of monks walking through rain, each holding a different object. A bell, a book, a beetle. Yes, a beetle, a gold one. Legend says if you spot the beetle while submerged, your next thought will reveal your greatest confusion. You find the beetle, and just like that, a memory bubbles up, a small one, from years ago. An argument over something ridiculous. Was it rice or quinoa? You don't even care anymore, but the tension had lingered. Somehow, soaking in sacred beetle water just dissolved it. You smile, and the water smiles back. Beside the pool, a robe hangs drying, patches upon patches, every color of weathered cloth, mended so many times it probably remembers every needle prick. You overhear a joke from two monks toweling off. That robe has been reincarnated more than we have. Laughter floats like bubbles. A bell rings once in the courtyard, low and deliberate. A monk in saffron robes appears with a small bowl of stone-ground paste. He walks the pool's edge and gently places a dot on each bather's forehead. The paste smells of pine and sesame and something like memory. For clarity, he says, not answers, just clarity. You nod. Buddhists still debate whether clarity is better than understanding. The question itself is treated like a pebble dropped in water, not meant to be solved, just rippled. You climb out slowly, robe damp, skin tingling from the mineral bath. The cool air meets you like an old friend. Someone hands you a folded towel, woven with thin strips of bark fiber. It smells faintly of sun and patience. As you dry your hands, your eyes land on a wooden sign nailed to the exit post. Clean thoughts are overrated. Clean hands, however. You pass under the arch, your steps lighter, your breath deeper. A monk walking beside you murmurs, "Most people think the bath changes you. It doesn't. You were just finally still enough to notice." That feels like the truest thing anyone said all day. A fringe tale lingers in your mind, one about a long-departed master who once bathed in silence for 3 years. When asked why, he replied, "I was waiting for the water to say something important. It never did." That was the message. You reach a bench beneath a flowering plum tree where petals drift like forgotten thoughts. You sit. You don't do anything else. Just sit. Your damp robe clings gently to your shoulder blades. The paste on your forehead cools into stillness. You notice the wind no longer brushes past you. It flows through you. A falling petal lands on your knee, pauses, then tumbles to the grass. No one sees it, but you do, waiting for continue.
You rise from beneath the plum tree, brushing stray petals from your robe, and continue along a narrow path that winds upward toward the monastery's highest point. The air here grows thinner, cooler, and every breath feels like a gift measured in slow increments. Your sandals, which have already carried dozens of stories today, carry you onward, tapping gently against uneven stone steps. A group of novices passes you, walking in single file, each carrying a small wooden tray with a single object, a pebble, a feather, a folded cloth, a tiny bell, a length of rope. Each tray is balanced perfectly, like an offering to the incline itself. When a breeze catches the rope, it ripples on the next novice's tray, sending a ripple of smiles along the line. You follow them until the trail opens onto a plateau overlooking the valley below, mist twisting through the trees like lingering incense. In the center stands the pavilion of 8 winds, where each side faces a different direction and catches a different breeze, considered a living metaphor for the eightfold path. A monk in patched robes stands at the entrance and beckons you forward. "One wind at a time," he says softly. "Listen for your word." You step onto the veranda and close your eyes. The wind from the east brushes your face like a silk ribbon, carrying the scent of jasmine blossoms half a mile away. The wind from the south is warmer, tinged with the smoky trace of distant hearths. West brings the tang of rain that fell hours ago, still moist on the leaves. The north wind hums with crisp mountain chill. Buddhists still debate whether these directional winds have spiritual qualities or are simply weather. Here, you don't need to choose. You need only notice. You place a hand on the sun-warmed railing and lean into the east wind, letting it press you gently forward. The jasmine scent feels sweet and curious, as if asking, "What questions have you forgotten?" You breathe deeply, and for a moment, the valley hums back in answer. Then you shift and face south. The warm breath on your cheeks feels like an old friend's embrace, comforting but not clingy. What burdens have you carried too long? Flashes in your mind, and you exhale, imagining the breeze lifting each weight, one by one. Next, west. The cool dampness stirs a memory of footsteps in mud, the time you stumbled, the time you paused, the time you nearly turned back. The rain wind seems to murmur, what might bloom in soft places. You imagine seeds sprouting in your heart and nod ever so slightly. Finally, north. The sharp air pricks your senses, waking every cell. You shiver and smile. The wind asks, what clarity have you yet to see? You press your palm again to the railing, feeling its grain beneath your skin, solid, patient, unhurried. A silence settles, not empty but full, like the pause before a bell. You open your eyes and notice the novices have placed their trays at the pavilion's corners. They bow and step back, leaving their pebble, feather, cloth, bell, rope, and 3 other items you can't identify. Each tray forms a small shrine to simplicity. The monk who guided you stands beside a bundle of incense sticks. He lights one and lets the smoke drift in each direction, following the winds you just felt. The incense scent mingles with jasmine and damp earth, and the combination feels like language itself. Did you know, some Himalayan sects interpret the wind as a teacher, believing each breeze carries a lesson from the dead masters whose ashes rest in the valley below? It's hard to separate myth from meteorology here. The incense burns down to a nub, leaving a thin wisp that curls upward and disappears. You step forward to inspect the trays more closely. The pebble is smooth, worn by water, and yet perfectly balanced in its corner. The feather is delicate, caught mid-fall in the tray, as if gravity paused to honor it. The bell's clapper rests mid-air, the rope looped in a loose knot meant never to be untied. A novice whispers, "These items are camouflage. They only look ordinary." You frown. Camouflage for what? He shrugs. Maybe for the wind itself. You laugh softly, and then catch yourself. Laughter here is more like a prayer than a joke. The monk offers you a small wooden cup of water drawn from a spring at the base of the hill. The liquid is crystal clear and cold enough to tickle your lips. He instructs you to sip and then pour the rest over your head, anointing yourself with mountain breath. You do. The water rushes through your hair, down your neck, and into your robes, and for a moment, you feel lighter than the wind itself. Even your sandals seem to lift, ready to carry you onward. A fringe tale emerges. Some pilgrims claim that standing in this pavilion during a solar eclipse, rare as it is, grants insight into all 8 paths at once. No one's ever recorded it. Perhaps it's enough that you believe it for a heartbeat. The valley below brightens as the sun climbs. The mist retreats, revealing fields, temples, and winding rivers that glitter like ribbons of light. You remember all the steps you've taken today, through forests, halls, kitchens, baths, and gardens of sandals, and realize each was guided by its own breeze. The monk kneels to gather the trays and incense ash, mixing them together before scattering them to the 4 winds. The items vanish into the grass, just as easily as they appeared. Nothing left but memory. He stands, brushes his robes, and nods at you. It's time to descend. But you linger one moment longer, feeling each direction's whisper in your bones. Then you step down from the pavilion, your sandals settling onto the slope with purpose. Each step downward echoes upward, like an answer traveling back to the winds. The path now twists through a thicket of pine and cedar, the scent rich and resinous, comforting like a favorite woolen sweater. Your footsteps are muffled by fallen needles, and the soft crunch is oddly reassuring, like the world's way of whispering, "Keep going, you're almost there." You pause beside a hollowed stump filled with rainwater, its surface perfectly still and mirror-like. Leaning over, you glimpse not just your reflection but the blurry shapes of clouds drifting above, as if the sky itself is dipping down to meet you. A gentle voice breaks the silence. A monk steps into view, holding a scroll tied with a frayed red ribbon. He smiles warmly, eyes crinkling like weathered parchment. "Welcome to the Library of Whispered Truths," he says softly. You blink. A library? Hidden here? With no bookshelves or reading lamps? He gestures toward a circle of ancient stones, worn smooth by centuries of touch. Each stone bears a single carved symbol, a lotus, a wheel, a flame, a mountain peak. You're told that this is the library, where stories are not read but felt, remembered through touch and presence. As you move from stone to stone, your fingers trace the symbols. Each one seems to pulse with a subtle warmth, a heartbeat of its own. The lotus feels cool and calming, the wheel hums with quiet energy, the flame flickers under your touch, and the mountain peak is solid, grounding. Historians still debate whether oral traditions like these were meant to replace written scriptures or to serve as complementary meditation tools. Some argue that feeling the stones connects you more deeply to teachings than any page ever could. You lean into the mountain stone, closing your eyes and imagining ancient monks seated here, passing knowledge silently across generations. The forest around you feels alive with their presence, soft footfalls, whispered chants, the occasional rustle of robes. An odd fact bubbles up. In some monasteries, novices learned entire sutras by walking a labyrinth of stones, each step corresponding to a line of scripture. Memory, movement, and meaning blended seamlessly. You're offered a feather quill and a piece of bark, gently encouraged to write a single word, one virtue you wish to carry. Your hand moves slowly, almost as if the stone's energy guides it. You write patience. A monk nods approvingly. Patience is the root of all wisdom here. You laugh softly. That explains why we've been walking so slowly. He smiles, eyes twinkling. And why you're still not finished. Nearby, a small bird flits between branches, a vivid splash of emerald against the muted forest colors. It seems to watch you with curiosity. tilting its head as if to ask, "What word will you choose next?" You feel a sudden urge to tell it all your worries, but the forest hush reminds you that some words are better carried in silence. The monk leads you to a low bench where a bowl of water awaits. Floating inside is a single lotus petal, delicate and pink. "This," he says, "is the story we all carry. Light, fragile, and yet persistent." You dip your fingers into the water and gently push the petal, watching it drift in lazy circles. Each rotation feels like a page turning in an invisible book. A fringe tale surfaces. Some legends say that touching a lotus petal in sacred water during a full moon grants a glimpse into one's past lives. Of course, no one knows if it's true. But the thought lingers like a soft lullaby. You look up at the sky through the canopy, the leaves filtering light like stained glass. It feels like the forest itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to understand. A light joke drifts in your mind: why don't monks ever get lost? Because they always follow the path of least resistance, and the trail of lotus petals. You smile and rise, feeling the weight of patience settle comfortably in your chest. The monk bows lightly and gestures toward the path ahead. You step forward, carrying the quiet wisdom of stones, petals, and slow footsteps, ready to continue the journey. The forest thins as you ascend toward a sunlit clearing, where a small wooden cottage rests like a secret cradled by the earth. The air smells of dried herbs and old paper, comforting and mysterious at once. You approach the porch, where a simple sign swings gently in the breeze: the herb garden of forgotten flavors. Inside, rows of pots and jars line wooden shelves, each labeled with delicate calligraphy. The gentle rustle of leaves and the faint clinking of glass create a peaceful melody. A soft-spoken herbalist greets you, his eyes twinkling with stories yet untold. He offers you a cup of warm tea brewed from a rare leaf known only to this monastery, a calming infusion said to soothe both body and wandering mind. You inhale its earthy aroma, the taste light and sweet with a hint of something floral. You learn that Buddhist monks have cultivated medicinal herbs for centuries, not only to heal physical ailments but to nourish spiritual well-being. Historians still debate how much ancient Buddhist medicine influenced neighboring cultures. But it's clear that these gardens were sacred spaces, tended with as much care as the scriptures. An intriguing fact surfaces: some monks believed that certain plants could absorb negative energy, and they would place these herbs near meditation cushions to protect their practice. You imagine a small patch of lavender quietly guarding a monk's deepest thoughts. The herbalist smiles and gestures toward a plant with bright purple flowers. "This is the night whisper," he explains. "Its scent is faint but lingers in dreams." You lean in, breathing softly, and the fragrance seems to stir memories just beyond reach, like half-remembered stories told in the dark. You feel a wave of calm wash over you, as if the plant's quiet power seeps into your bones. Nearby, a curious tradition is mentioned. During the full moon, monks would prepare a special blend of herbs to share with guests, believing that this ritual aligned their energies with the rhythms of the universe. You wonder if any guests ever fell asleep mid-ceremony, lulled by the blend's gentle potency. You reach out and touch a leaf, feeling its texture, velvety and cool. The herbalist chuckles softly. "Not everything here is for drinking. Some leaves are for touch, for grounding." He produces a small pouch filled with crushed herbs and invites you to rub it between your palms. The scent is sharp and refreshing, like mountain air after rain. You close your eyes, letting the aroma anchor you to the present moment. Buddhists still debate whether these rituals were primarily medicinal or deeply symbolic, blending healing and mindfulness into a seamless whole. Either way, the garden feels like a sanctuary, a place where time itself slows and bends to kindness. You ask the herbalist about unusual plants, And he shares a light-hearted story about a herb once thought to cure insomnia but actually caused vivid, colorful dreams. Monks soon renamed it the Dream Weaver and used it sparingly, lest their meditation turn into elaborate daydreams. You laugh softly, imagining a group of meditating monks suddenly bursting into spontaneous dance thanks to a mischievous leaf. As you prepare to leave, the herbalist hands you a small sachet of dried herbs. For your travels, he says, to remind you of calm. Outside, the sunlight dapples through the trees, and you tuck the sachet into your robe pocket. The breeze carries the scent of night whisper, blending with distant bells and the faint laughter of novices at play. You continue down the path, feeling the gentle power of the garden lingering in your steps. A subtle reminder that healing and rest often grow quietly in the spaces between. The path leads you to a narrow stone bridge arching over a tranquil stream, its waters whispering secrets in smooth, endless flow. You pause at the bridge's center, letting the cool mist rise to meet your face. Around you, willows dip their slender branches, tracing lazy patterns on the water's surface like calligraphy written by the breeze. You watch a pair of dragonflies dance, their iridescent wings flashing in the sunlight, as if celebrating some quiet ceremony of air and light. Somewhere downstream, a fisherman quietly casts his line, the plop of the hook into the water joining the symphony of nature's slow rhythms. Buddhist monks often meditated near water, believing that its steady flow mirrored the mind's ideal state, calm yet ever-moving. Historians still debate whether these riverside retreats were primarily for meditation, for practical water needs, or both entwined. You lean on the stone railing, fingers tracing the carved motifs of lotus flowers and waves, worn smooth by countless travelers who paused here before you. A faint breeze carries the scent of wet earth and blooming lotus far downstream, mingling with the subtle hint of sandalwood incense. A curious story surfaces. Some monks practiced water calligraphy, tracing characters with their fingers on the stream's surface, believing the momentary marks carried spiritual power even as they vanished instantly. You imagine ripples spreading outward, carrying prayers in delicate waves. You notice a small wooden box tied beneath the bridge, filled with folded slips of paper, prayers and wishes left by visitors over the years. Each note carries a hope or question, quietly waiting for the water to answer. The fisherman nods at you and murmurs, "Water listens, but only if you speak softly." You smile and take a moment to whisper a wish of your own, feeling the cool spray mist your lips. An odd fact drifts in. In some ancient Buddhist traditions, fish were symbols of freedom and liberation, yet monks also practiced mindful vegetarianism, creating a subtle balance between reverence for life and the practicalities of sustenance. You ponder this balance as the sun begins to dip lower, the light softening to a golden hue. The stream's surface flickers like molten glass, reflecting your quiet thoughts. A light joke crosses your mind. Why did the monk bring a fishing rod to meditation? To catch some inner peace. The fisherman chuckles, and you laugh along, the sound blending with the gentle flow of water. You step off the bridge and follow the stream's edge into a grove of ancient trees. Their roots tangled like the stories you've collected today, some clear and bright, others mysterious and shadowed. As evening descends, you feel the peaceful rhythm of the stream settle within you. A gentle current carrying you closer to rest. The grove opens onto a quiet courtyard shaded by towering bamboo, their slender stalks swaying softly in the evening breeze. The bamboo leaves whisper like 1,000 tiny bells, creating a natural lullaby that invites your breath to slow and your thoughts to soften. You spot a weathered stone bench beside a small koi pond, where iridescent fish glide beneath lily pads, their movements graceful and unhurried. You settle onto the bench, the cool stone grounding you, while the gentle ripples send shimmering patterns across the water's surface. A monk approaches, carrying a tray with a delicate porcelain cup filled with warm jasmine tea. "For your rest," he says quietly, placing it beside you. You bring the cup to your lips, savoring the subtle floral notes that seem to wash away the day's weariness. The warmth seeps into your hands and then your chest, a small comfort in the fading light. The monk begins to speak softly about the tradition of bamboo groves in Buddhist practice, places of solitude, resilience, and quiet strength. Historians still debate whether the bamboo's symbolism of flexibility and endurance inspired certain meditative techniques, but all agree it serves as a powerful reminder to bend without breaking. A curious detail emerges: some monasteries used bamboo flutes during evening prayers, their haunting melodies weaving through the air like a gentle breeze, lulling both monks and visitors toward tranquility. You watch as the monk lifts a simple flute and breathes a slow, steady note. The sound flows around you, a smooth wave that seems to settle inside your chest. You remember a story about an ancient bamboo grove where monks reportedly composed poems in the silence between flute notes, letting the music shape their words and thoughts in a dance of sound and meaning. A light joke tickles your mind: why don't bamboo stalks ever get lost? Because they always follow the groove. You chuckle quietly, feeling the warmth of laughter mingle with the tea's calming embrace. The koi fish glide close to the surface, their scales catching the last light, like tiny lanterns floating in a quiet river. One fish rises, breaking the surface with a gentle splash, as if acknowledging your presence. Buddhists still debate whether these fish symbolize wealth, freedom, or simply the flowing nature of life itself. Here, in the twilight, their meaning feels less important than their quiet grace. You lean back, letting the bamboo's soft rustle and the flute's lingering notes wrap around you like a cozy shawl. The monk nods toward the path that leads deeper into the monastery's heart. "Rest well," he says, his voice a whisper carried by the evening breeze. You stand slowly, feeling the slow pulse of peace that comes from moments like these, a balance of sound, scent, and shadow. With one last glance at the koi pond's shimmering surface, you follow the winding path onward, your steps lighter, your mind quieter. The winding path brings you to an ancient meditation hall, its wooden doors open wide to welcome the fading light. Inside, the air is cool and still, carrying the faint aroma of incense mingled with aged cedar. Soft cushions are arranged in neat rows, inviting you to sit and become part of the quiet rhythm. You slide into a cushion, feeling the fabric's rough texture beneath your palms, grounding you. Outside, the sounds of the evening mingle with the faint chanting of monks settling into their practice. The voices rise and fall like waves, each syllable a thread in the tapestry of calm. A senior monk seated nearby smiles gently, sharing stories of the hall's origins, built centuries ago by a master who believed that silence and space could teach more than words. Historians still debate whether such halls were originally intended for group meditation or solitary retreats, but their peaceful power is universally acknowledged. You close your eyes and listen to the cadence of the chant, your breath slowing to match. The sound is like a soft river, carrying away scattered thoughts and worries. You feel yourself drifting, buoyed by the gentle current. An unexpected tidbit surfaces. In some monasteries, monks would chant for hours through the night, believing the sound waves cleansed both the body and spirit. The process was said to be so soothing that some monks reportedly fell asleep mid-chant, much to their companions' quiet amusement. You smile, imagining a chorus of half-asleep monks humming their way into dreams. The chanting shifts subtly, the rhythm deepening and lengthening, guiding you closer to stillness. The hall feels like a sanctuary where time dilates, every moment stretching into a soft embrace. A scholarly debate lingers. Whether such prolonged chanting was primarily spiritual practice or a communal way to maintain wakefulness during long nights. Either way, its effect on listeners, like you, is undeniable. Your thoughts slow and soften, the room's coolness and the chanting's warmth weaving together a cocoon of rest. A light joke drifts in. Why did the monk bring a pillow to meditation? To rest his worries alongside his head. You chuckle softly, the sound blending with the chant's fading echo. As the final notes dissolve into silence, you open your eyes slowly, feeling both renewed and gently ready for sleep. You rise from the cushion, carrying the hall's peace with you like a whispered secret. The evening outside is cool and quiet. Stars beginning to twinkle overhead like distant lanterns guiding you home. You step onto the path that leads back, each footfall light and easy. The journey feels complete, full of whispered teachings, gentle laughter, and quiet discoveries. You breathe deeply, the night air filling your lungs with calm. The path leads you gently away from the meditation hall into a moonlit garden where shadows dance softly across ancient stones. The scent of jasmine and night-blooming cereus fills the air. Sweet and soothing, like a lullaby composed by the night itself. You wander slowly among flowering bushes, petals brushing your fingertips like silk scarves. Their delicate touch grounding you in the present moment. The garden seems suspended between dreams and waking, a place where time stretches and folds like soft fabric. A gardener in simple robes appears, tending to a patch of rare night flowers. He smiles kindly and offers you a fresh blossom, its pale petals cool and fragrant in your hand. This flower blooms only under the moon's gentle gaze, he says quietly. Like wisdom, it reveals itself in quiet moments. You sip the cool night air and let the gardener's words settle. Buddhists still debate whether such nocturnal gardens were places for secret rituals or simply peaceful retreats from daytime duties. Whatever the truth, the garden's calm is undeniable. A curious detail surfaces. Some monks believe that walking barefoot among night flowers sharpened the senses and deepened meditation. You wiggle your toes in the cool earth, imagining ancient feet tracing these same paths. You laugh softly, recalling an old saying, if the moon can bloom flowers, maybe your worries can bloom into peace. The gardener nods knowingly and gestures toward a small pond, its surface glassy and still. A lone lotus floats, its pale glow faint but unmistakable. You sit beside the pond, watching the lotus, feeling its quiet strength echo within. The night sounds hum gently around you, crickets, rustling leaves, the distant call of an owl. An odd fact lingers, in some traditions. Lotus flowers that bloomed at night were considered especially sacred, symbols of enlightenment that transcends darkness. You let the moonlight wash over your face, soft and tender. Like a whispered promise. A light joke drifts through your mind. Why did the lotus refuse to sleep? Because it wanted to stay awake for enlightenment. You smile and close your eyes. The garden's peace folding into your breath. With each slow inhale and exhale, you feel your body and mind sink deeper into rest. The garden fades gently behind your eyelids as you drift toward the welcoming arms of sleep. You awaken, not with a start, but as if gently emerging from a dream, to find yourself in a quiet library filled with the soft rustle of parchment and the faint scent of aged ink. The walls are lined with scrolls and manuscripts, their delicate fibers whispering centuries of wisdom. A monk seated at a low table offers you a cup of warm chrysanthemum tea, its floral aroma mingling with the quiet hum of knowledge around you. Here, he says softly, are the stories forgotten by time, waiting for patient ears. You settle beside him, fingers brushing the smooth surface of a weathered text. Historians still debate the authenticity of many early Buddhist manuscripts, some lost and others only recently rediscovered. But their words carry a timeless calm. A curious fact emerges. Monks once used palm leaves as writing materials, carefully inscribing teachings with styluses made from bamboo. The leaves were then coated with oils to preserve them, making them both fragile and enduring, much like the wisdom they contained. You imagine the slow, meditative process of crafting these texts. Each stroke a deliberate act of devotion. The room feels like a sanctuary, a temple of silence and thought. A light joke surfaces. Why did the manuscript refuse to be read? Because it was too leaf-full of itself. You chuckle softly, the humor a gentle ripple in the tranquil space. The monk opens a scroll, revealing delicate calligraphy that tells of monks who traveled far to spread teachings, sometimes disguising themselves as merchants or pilgrims. You picture their journeys along dusty roads and forest trails, stories unfolding with each step. The library's stillness deepens, wrapping around you like a warm blanket. You feel your thoughts slow, carried by the flow of ancient words. Buddhists still debate how much early teachings evolved as they crossed cultures. But the essence remains, a shared search for peace and understanding. As you sip the last of your tea, you feel the quiet power of knowledge not just to inform, but to soothe. You lean back, eyes closing as the room fades softly into the dim glow of evening. You step quietly from the library into a sunlit courtyard where monks gather for their daily alms round. The air hums softly with gentle footsteps and whispered greetings. You follow alongside. The rhythm steady and calming, like a slow, comforting heartbeat. Buddhists still debate whether the alms round originated as a practical necessity or a symbolic act of humility. But its peaceful cadence remains a cornerstone of monastic life. You watch as bowls are offered and received, the exchange more than just food, it's a ritual weaving community and compassion. The aroma of freshly cooked rice mingles with the crisp scent of morning dew on lotus leaves nearby. A small group of novices carries woven baskets, their smiles shy but sincere. Each step a quiet lesson in mindfulness. You hear a light-hearted story. Once, a monk accidentally accepted a sweet treat disguised inside a savory meal, leading to an unexpected moment of laughter and shared delight among the community. It's a reminder that even in discipline, there's room for gentle surprise. You imagine yourself walking barefoot on the cool stone path, feeling the earth's pulse through your soles, every movement a meditation in itself. A scholar's debate drifts through your mind. Was the alms round primarily for sustenance, or a teaching tool to cultivate generosity and gratitude? Perhaps it is both, seamlessly intertwined. The soft clink of bowls being emptied, the murmur of thanks, and the peaceful smile of a senior monk all blend into a symphony of calm. You inhale deeply, savoring the shared humanity in this simple exchange. You joke silently. Why don't monks ever rush the alms round? Because they don't want to lose their bowl of calm. A chuckle escapes your lips, blending with the ambient sounds of the morning. As the alms round concludes, you feel the quiet strength of this ritual, a steady reminder of presence and connection. You step away from the courtyard, heart lighter, ready to continue the unfolding journey toward rest. You wander next into a quiet kitchen where the soft clang of pottery and the gentle hiss of simmering broth fill the air. The aroma of herbs and steamed rice wraps around you like a warm embrace, coaxing a smile as you inhale deeply. Here, monks prepare simple meals with care, embodying mindfulness in every chop and stir. You watch a novice carefully balance a bowl of vegetable stew, the colors vibrant and inviting, a testament to the monastic discipline of simplicity and nourishment. Buddhists still debate the role of food in spiritual practice, whether it's merely sustenance or a sacred offering fostering gratitude and self-control. Yet, the ritual of meal preparation remains a gentle act of devotion. A curious tidbit drifts in. some monasteries practiced silent meals, where eating was done in complete quiet, allowing the senses to fully engage and the mind to settle. You imagine the soft sounds of chopsticks tapping bowls, a rhythm both grounding and meditative. You reach out to touch a bamboo cutting board, its surface smooth and worn, carrying the echoes of countless meals shared in quiet fellowship. The kitchen feels like the heart of the monastery, simple, steady, and essential. A light joke surfaces. Why did the monk refuse dessert? Because he was already full of inner sweetness. You laugh softly to yourself, the humor a gentle thread weaving through the calm. You notice an ancient recipe book resting nearby, its pages stained with the marks of time and use. The text describes herbal teas believed to soothe the mind and body, like lavender and chamomile blends that still comfort people today. The kitchen's warmth seeps into your bones, blending with the fragrant steam and peaceful atmosphere. As you sip a cup of herbal infusion offered by a gentle hand, you feel the steady comfort of simple nourishment. The quiet power of presence in even the smallest tasks. You stand slowly, ready to follow the monastery's winding path deeper into the unfolding evening. The path leads you through a tranquil orchard where ancient trees heavy with fruit cast long shadows in the soft light. The scent of ripe peaches and fragrant blossoms mingles with the earthy aroma of fallen leaves, wrapping you in a natural lullaby. You stroll slowly beneath branches that have borne witness to countless seasons, feeling the rough bark under your fingertips and the gentle rustle of leaves whispering above. Somewhere nearby, a pair of doves coos softly, their call weaving through the stillness. Buddhists still debate whether fruit-bearing trees symbolized abundance or impermanence in monastic gardens. But their quiet presence has long offered a place for reflection and repose. A quirky fact surfaces: some monks believed eating fruit under moonlight enhanced its healing properties. A gentle practice blending nature's rhythms with mindful awareness. You imagine hands reaching for a cool, juicy peach under the silver glow. You pause to watch a single leaf detach and drift lazily down, tracing a slow spiral before settling on the soft earth. It feels like a gentle lesson in letting go. A light joke comes to mind. Why don't fruit trees ever get stressed? Because they always know when to let it go. You smile, the humor lightening the quiet moment. Nearby, a weathered stone bench invites you to sit, its surface warm from the day's sun. You rest there, eyes closing as the orchard scents and sounds cradle you in a gentle embrace. You recall tales of ancient monasteries where orchards were both practical and symbolic, sources of sustenance and reminders of life's fleeting sweetness. The air cools gradually, the sky shifting to a deeper shade of blue, stars beginning to twinkle like distant lanterns. You breathe deeply, savoring the orchard's calm as it seeps into your skin and soul. With one last glance at the fruit-laden branches, you rise, footsteps soft on the mossy ground, continuing your journey toward deeper rest. The evening leads you to a quiet lake shore where water lilies float serenely on a glassy surface, reflecting the soft blush of twilight. The gentle lapping of water against smooth stones invites you closer, each ripple a tender caress. You remove your sandals and step onto the cool earth, feeling the subtle give beneath your feet, grounding you in the moment. The air is cool and fragrant, carrying faint hints of lotus and moss. Buddhists still debate whether lakes symbolized the mind's clarity or its depths of mystery. But sitting by water has long been a practice for calming restless thoughts. A surprising detail arises: some monasteries held nighttime lantern festivals on lakes, where monks would set floating candles adrift, symbolizing hopes and prayers carried gently away. You picture the shimmering lights drifting softly across the water. You smile softly, imagining your own thoughts like little lanterns floating toward the stars. A light joke floats in: why did the lotus refuse to race? because it preferred to just float along. The sky darkens slowly, stars appearing one by one, their steady glow a silent chorus of light. You sit on a smooth rock, watching the water's endless dance, feeling your breath match its ebb and flow. Nearby, a monk begins a quiet chant, the soft words mingling with the night air like a lullaby. Buddhists still debate the origins of water meditation, but its soothing power is undeniable, inviting stillness in both body and mind. You lean back, letting the gentle murmur of water and chant wrap around you like a warm shawl. The peaceful scene draws your thoughts inward, a calm center amidst the quiet night. As the lantern's glow fades into darkness, you close your eyes, ready to drift toward sleep's embrace. The path takes you next to an ancient monastery nestled among towering bamboo groves. The slender stalks sway softly in the evening breeze, their rustling creating a gentle symphony that soothes your senses like a lullaby whispered by the wind. You step carefully along a narrow trail, the cool bamboo leaves brushing against your fingertips, releasing a subtle, fresh scent that fills the air with a quiet clarity. The sound of a distant bell tingles faintly, blending with the rhythmic rustling. Buddhists still debate whether bamboo symbolizes strength or flexibility, but its presence in monastic settings has long inspired contemplation on resilience and surrender. A curious tidbit emerges: monks sometimes fashion flutes from bamboo, their soft, haunting melodies echoing through the groves during early morning meditation. You imagine the gentle notes weaving through the mist, calling all beings to wake with peace. You smile softly, thinking, why did the bamboo always stay calm? Because it knew how to bend without breaking. The trail curves gently, leading you to a small pavilion where monks gather to share stories under a canopy of stars. Their voices rise and fall in soft laughter, blending with the natural music of the bamboo forest. You settle nearby, feeling the cool earth beneath you and the soft glow of lanterns casting flickering shadows. The atmosphere is one of warmth and quiet connection, a space where stories become a shared breath. Buddhists still debate the exact origins of some ancient tales told here, but their gentle humor and insight continue to light the way for seekers. You lean back, eyes half closed, letting the rustling bamboo and soft voices drift around you, a soothing chorus that eases your mind. The night deepens, the air cool and tender, wrapping you in a peaceful embrace. You take a slow breath, the bamboo's song settling deep within, ready to carry you further into restful sleep. You find yourself walking along a misty mountain trail, where ancient pine trees reach skyward, their needles whispering secrets to the cool morning air. The scent of damp earth and resin blends into a natural perfume that calms your spirit. Your footsteps are soft on the moss-covered path as you climb slowly, feeling the steady rhythm beneath you. The landscape opens to reveal distant peaks cloaked in clouds, a silent reminder of nature's quiet grandeur. Buddhists still debate whether mountains are sacred spaces inherently or sanctified through meditation and devotion, but their majesty invites a contemplative stillness that is hard to resist. A surprising detail surfaces: some monks practiced mountain solitude, retreating for weeks to meditate alone, seeking insight amidst the silence and isolation. You imagine their breath visible in the crisp air, each exhale a prayer into the vastness. You smile gently, thinking, why don't mountains ever get lonely? Because they always have their peaks to talk to. The trail winds past ancient stone markers etched with faded inscriptions, reminders of pilgrims who traveled these paths centuries ago, their footsteps tracing a timeless journey. Nearby, a gentle stream bubbles over smooth stones, its cool water singing a soothing melody that blends seamlessly with the rustling pines. You pause to cup the water, feeling its refreshing chill flow through your fingers, a reminder of nature's gentle gifts. Buddhists still debate the symbolic meanings of flowing water in meditation, whether it represents impermanence or continuous renewal, but its calming presence is universally felt. You continue upward, your breath steady, heart light, carried by the mountain's quiet strength. As the sun peeks through the clouds, you pause to look out over the misty valley below. A scene painted with the soft colors of dawn. Your body and mind soften, ready to drift into peaceful rest under the mountain's watchful embrace. The path leads you into a quiet chamber built into the hillside, its entrance framed by weathered wood and carved lotus petals. A soft glow filters through narrow slits in the stone walls, illuminating row upon row of sandals, neatly arranged on low shelves that climb toward the ceiling, each pair standing in silent testimony. This is the Hall of Unreturned Souls, where sandals of monks who never came back find refuge. Some pairs are splintered, others faded to ghostly pale hues. A few look pristine, perhaps abandoned moments ago. The air is cool, scented faintly of cedar and thyme. Buddhists still debate whether this hall is a memorial to choices made or a reminder of impermanence's call. Either way, its hush is profound, broken only by the soft echo of your own breath. You step closer, toes brushing cool flagstones. The first shelf holds simple straw sandals, straps frayed but soles shaped by miles of soft detours. A tag dangles from one strap, lost to the river's current. You imagine the monk wading into flowing water, sandals slipping free, carried downstream like a message in a bottle. An odd detail flits through your mind. In some eastern provinces, monks believed that letting a sandal float away meant sending one's doubts into the river, a symbolic cleansing. You wonder if any rivers ever replied. Nearby, a pair of sandals woven from palm fiber stands perfectly symmetrical, straps tied in elegant knots. You run your finger along the weave, feeling its fibrous texture mash harmoniously. A monk's note reads, "Given to a traveler under the rain moon." You sense droplets still clinging invisibly to the fibers, memories of storm-washed paths. A mainstream fact emerges: monasteries often documented missing monks in temple records, noting which sandals remained behind. Yet many records vanished over time, leaving shelves as the only archive. You step deeper into the hall, eyes adjusting to shadows. Polished wood beams overhead bear the weight of silent feet. Here, sandals of leather and cloth share space with those of clay, some cracked and patched countless times. Each pair tells a story of weather endured, blisters healed, miles traversed in service or solitude. A light joke surfaces: you could start a shoe museum, but every exhibit already walked away. The hall's stillness seems to nod in agreement, as if the sandals themselves appreciate the humor. A flicker of movement draws your attention. A novice stands at the far end, holding a single sandal, oddly new, with crisp edges and no sign of wear. He bows, places it on an empty shelf, and backs away without a word. The emptiness beside it feels charged. You kneel, inspecting the space, polished like the rest, yet resonant with fresh absence. Buddhists still debate whether new offerings are meant to honor the departed or invite new journeys. The line between homage and hope blurs here. You rise and wander to a shelf where a single sandal lingers, missing its pair entirely. The sole is thin, almost translucent, as if the foot that wore it has vanished too. A small plaque beneath reads, "Waited for one who never returned." The words echo in your mind, "waited." You trace the edge, feeling a subtle warmth, as though gratitude lingers where once footsteps fell. Did you know, some monastic traditions held a silent ceremony each moon for lost devotees, lighting candles on empty sandals to guide their spirits home. The light was said to flicker in harmony with distant footsteps. You move on to a section where tiny sandals, no bigger than a child's hand, sit like delicate carvings. Their straps are slender threads, soles fashioned from banana leaf. A tag notes, abandoned by the child who gave it to the forest spirits. You imagine small feet dancing in moonlit groves, leaving sandals behind as offerings of laughter. The air shifts, and you feel a gentle breeze curl through the hall, though no windows stand open. The breeze carries a whisper, "Return, return." Or perhaps it's your heart speaking, urging your own steps back to living paths. You pause by a pair crafted from thick leather, straps reinforced with bronze buckles. They look more like ceremonial wear than everyday shoes. A note reads, "Left at the scholar's door, proof that knowledge must walk its own path." You picture a teacher exchanging sandals with a pupil, relinquishing status to embrace true learning. A fringe theory surfaces. Some say visionary monks wore heavy ceremonial sandals during trance states to anchor themselves to the mortal realm. Scholars still debate whether these sandals held symbolic weight or served practical function, but their presence here suggests both. The chamber's glow softens as dusk approaches, lanterns igniting one by one along the walls. Their flames shimmer across the sandals, creating dancing patterns of light and shadow. You feel the hush deepen, as if everyone who once wore these shoes has paused to watch. A scratchy whisper reaches you, though no one speaks, "Walk with heart." You glance around, only you and the silent souls. The words feel like an echo from the stones. You settle on a low bench at the hall's end, letting the memories float around you. The sandals, new and ancient, paired and lone, fill the hall with stories without sound. You close your eyes, breathing slowly, letting each inhale gather the tales and each exhale release their weight. A light joke drifts softly. In this hall, absences speak louder than presences. You almost laugh out loud, but the gentleness of the hall holds you in stillness. As night envelopes the chamber, the lantern flames flicker, and the hall seems to breathe in unison. You rise slowly, offering a silent bow to the rows of sandals. Each pair remains, still waiting, still teaching. You step onto the path outside. Sandals quiet on flagstones, carrying the hall's hushed wisdom back into the evening air. You descend a narrow stairway of stone, each step echoing softly as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. The faint glow of lanterns guides you downward into a hidden corridor lined with low shelves, echoes of the hall of unreturned souls above, but here, the shelves hold nothing but brooms, dustpans, and bundles of softly worn cloth. This is the abbot's sanctuary, a place seldom spoken of, where the head of the monastery attends to the simplest tasks. A lone figure appears at the far end, silhouetted against a pool of lantern light. With deliberate grace, he sweeps the floor, gathering dust and fallen petals into neat piles. Each sweep is slow, rhythmic, almost meditative. You watch, entranced, as the abbot moves with quiet authority, his breath matching the gentle sound of bristles on stone. Historians still debate whether the greatest teachers dwell in silence or in the roar of crowds, but here, in this hush, his presence feels more profound than any sermon could convey. A curious thing happens. As he sweeps, the grains of dust seem to swirl, dancing in tiny vortices before settling into the dustpan. You swear you see fleeting shapes, glimpses of sandal straps, echoes of laughter, whispers of footsteps long since past. Yet when you blink, they vanish, leaving only ordinary dust. Did you know, in some ancient traditions, sweeping was considered an act of symbolic purification, clearing both physical space and mental clutter. Monks believe that each particle removed from the floor carried away a portion of unwholesome thoughts. You feel a gentle tug at your sleeve. A novice stands beside you, holding a small broom. The abbot glances your way and offers a subtle nod, an invitation to join. You step forward, broom in hand, and begin to sweep alongside him. The task is simple, yet strangely profound. Each bristle stroke feels like a phrase in a silent poem. You clear a cluster of stray petals, then sweep a line of dust into a tidy pile. Your movements fall into a natural rhythm, guided by the abbot's unspoken guidance. A light joke drifts into your mind. Why did the monk become a janitor? Because he wanted to sweep away worldly illusions. You suppress a chuckle, mindful of the sacred quiet. The abbot pauses and sets his broom aside. He offers you a cloth, a faded remnant of a once vibrant robe. Wipe the lanterns, he murmurs. You take the cloth. Its fibers soft with history, and gently polish each lantern's glass, revealing the flickering flame within. As you work, you notice that each lantern bears a small inscription at its base, verses of ancient scripture praising the light that dispels darkness. Your fingers trace the characters, feeling the carved indentations beneath the dust. With every polish, the verses gleam brighter, as if the light itself is awakening. Buddhists still debate whether light symbolizes wisdom or compassion, or perhaps both intertwined. The abbot's lanterns seem to embody both, wisdom illuminating the path, compassion warming the heart. When the lamps are clear, he nods and steps back. He picks up his broom again and resumes sweeping, this time with you following in his gentle wake. Together, you transform the corridor into a corridor of calm, where every corner reflects both humility and purpose. You finish the final sweep in silence. The abbot sets down his broom and offers you a slight bow. You return it, feeling a deep swell of gratitude, not for the task completed, but for the simplicity of shared work. A fringe tale comes to mind. Some say the abbot once swept the entire courtyard alone to atone for words he spoke out of impatience. He swept until dawn, and when the first light rose, the courtyard was spotless, and so was his heart. As you step back, the abbot picks up the bundle of swept debris and carries it outside, scattering the bits into the gentle night breeze. The dust transforms into motes of light, drifting upward like fireflies, dissolving into the starry sky. You stand alone now in the quiet corridor, the lantern glows soft around you. Your own breath the only sound. The memory of sweeping lingers in your hands and feet, a reminder that the simplest acts, sweeping, polishing, gathering, can become profound when done with mindfulness. You leave the brooms and cloth behind and ascend the stairway, each step feeling lighter than before. As you emerge into the night air, the monastery around you seems to hum with the quiet power of the abbot's practice, that by tending to the smallest duties with full presence, we illuminate the greatest truths. You approach the quiet corridors of the monastery as dusk settles, the lantern glow softening shadows along stone walls. Somewhere ahead, voices murmur, too hushed to fully catch, yet enough to stir your curiosity. You adjust the strap on your sandal and slip into the gentle hush, senses alert to every creak of wood and flutter of fabric. A novice glances your way, eyebrows raised. Have you heard? He whispers, the words carrying like a secret breeze. Sandals have gone missing. You pause, surprise flickering across your mind. Sandals? In a place dedicated to simplicity and detachment, theft seems almost comical, yet here it is, a small crisis rippling through quiet halls. You follow him to a low table near the guest quarters, where an elder monk sits cross-legged, examining a single sandal. Its partner is nowhere to be found. The elder's expression is calm, almost amused. He holds up the lone sandal like a delicate relic. Someone learned to walk lightly in more ways than one, he murmurs, voice soft yet laced with gentle irony. Buddhists still debate whether confronting attachment through loss or through discipline serves the path better. Here, the missing sandals invite both. Questions about desire and the humility of admitting someone's need, or mischief. As you listen, the air feels charged with unseen lessons. A mainstream fact drifts in, historically. Monastic rules did address theft, even of small items like sandals, prescribing restitution or penance to cultivate honesty and detachment. Theft wasn't merely property loss but a mirror to the heart's hidden clinging. You sense how this incident echoes age-old teachings. Even in silence, ethical tensions arise. The elder sets the sandal aside and motions for you to join a small gathering of monks and novices in a circle. They sit on simple mats, faces thoughtful under lantern light. The topic spreads like a gentle ripple. Someone has been borrowing or taking sandals without asking. Maybe out of necessity. Maybe for a lesson. Or perhaps a playful trick to test generosity. You sink to the ground, feeling the coolness of the floor beneath you, and breathe slowly. The scent of incense lingers, mingling with evening air. An odd detail surfaces, in some traditions. Monks sometimes borrowed items from each other to foster non-attachment, returning them later with a note of gratitude. Could this be a deliberate teaching? Or is someone truly in need? A novice speaks up, Brother Ming returned my robe once with a smile but never explained why. Now my sandal is gone. The circle nods, murmurs of recollection. You recall footfalls echoing in empty corridors at night, perhaps not just wind. You imagine the missing sandal's journey, slipping off a sleeper's foot, carried like a treasure through moonlit halls. Maybe the thief intends to spark reflection. How lightly can we walk when even our sandals aren't certain? You let that question ripple through your awareness. The elder invites perspectives. If someone takes what isn't offered, what does that reveal? A gentle hush follows. You sense tension and compassion entwined, the community weighing judgment and understanding. A light sarcasm whispers, sure, you thought monastic life was free of drama, but even here, someone may crave excitement, or relief. A monk beside you mentions an odd custom from centuries past. When a pilgrim arrived destitute, monks sometimes offered their own sandals without announcement, leaving one sandal behind as a sign of shared journey. The missing pair in that case symbolized solidarity. Historians still debate whether such practices were widespread or largely symbolic anecdotes, but the notion lingers. Loss can be gift and gift can feel like loss. You close your eyes briefly, recalling previous scenes, the hall of lost sandals, the archive of everyday steps. Each missing sandal held meaning, stories of departure, offering, or forgetting. Could this moment weave into that tapestry? You open your eyes, attentive to the elder's calm gaze. He continues. We ask, is this a call for compassion or confrontation? Do we pursue the missing sandal or sit with the uncertainty it brings? The question hovers like incense smoke, inviting reflection rather than immediate action. A light joke surfaces. Maybe the thief simply wanted quieter feet to practice stealth meditation. The circle smiles, laughter gentle, acknowledging humor in ethical puzzles. It eases tension, reminding you that compassion often involves gentle levity. The elder invites practical steps, a shared watchfulness, without accusation. Place found sandals in a designated spot. Offer extra pairs for guests, remind everyone that any need can be voiced openly. A mainstream practice. Open communication channels to address scarcity or restlessness before it becomes secret mischief. You sense how these measures balance honesty and care. A novice adds, "Perhaps we hold a sandal exchange next dawn. Everyone leaves one sandal in the courtyard, then collects a different pair as a reminder of impermanence and generosity." The idea evokes memories. Monks once exchanged robes or bowls in silent teachings. This exchange could transform a crisis into practice. Buddhists still debate whether staged challenges cultivate insight or risk deception. Yet here, the community leans toward embracing the mystery as a teaching moment. You feel relief, rather than punitive measures, they choose collective learning. You rise and stretch, feeling the floor's cool support under your feet. The gathering disperses with quiet bows, the missing sandal remains a question mark setting a subtle lesson in motion. Outside, the night air feels clearer, as if the crisis has cleansed hidden complacency. Walking back toward your quarters, you notice your own sandals more keenly, their familiar shape, gentle wear. The strap's comfortable contour. You press fingers to the sole, mindful of its presence. What if it were gone? How would you respond? The thought deepens gratitude for simple possessions that accompany each step. In the courtyard, you glimpse a lone sandal at the edge, perhaps the returned one or a new offering. You don't touch it yet. Instead, you pause, letting twilight settle around you, sensing the unseen hands that placed it here. The mystery lingers, but your mind feels softer, more open to questions without immediate answers. A final light joke drifts. Maybe the thief is a shy spirit practicing non-attachment by walking barefoot among us. You smile, the humor a gentle balm for uncertainty. As you slip into your quarters, the incident echoes like a soft bell, a reminder that even in serene spaces, lessons arrive unexpectedly, guiding each step toward deeper awareness. You settle onto your mat, sandals placed neatly aside, heart quietly attuned to both loss and gift. You awaken to distant rumblings as if the sky itself is stirring from sleep, and you shuffle outside to find clouds gathering over the distant peaks. The air tastes of impending rain, cool, electric, and oddly reassuring, like a promise that even restlessness can be washed clean. You pull your sandals on, feeling their familiar shapes underfoot, and notice the courtyard's flagstones darken as the first drops begin to fall. A sudden monsoon is brewing. You sense the shift in atmosphere, birds quiet their songs, and a gentle wind picks up. Rustling prayer flags overhead. Historians still debate whether ancient monastic calendars risked their routines by embracing seasonal rains or treated storms as essential reminders of impermanence. Here, you don't question the timing, you welcome the lesson carried in each raindrop. Within moments, rain intensifies, drumming on rooftops like a slow chant. You trudge toward the forest path, mindful of slippery stones and pooling water. The monks move with calm purpose, gathering what they can, baskets, robes, even sandals left drying near the temple walls. A novice calls out to you. The trail may flood, gather your sauls. You nod and carefully secure your sandals, wondering what awaits beyond. A mainstream historical fact surfaces. In many monastic traditions across South and Southeast Asia, monasteries scheduled pilgrimages and retreats around monsoon seasons, knowing paths would become treacherous and rivers fierce. Yet these rains also nourished rice fields and forests, sustaining life. You follow others toward the ridge trail, where earlier you walked barefoot on cooled earth. Now the path glistens slick beneath torrents. As you step forward, an odd detail emerges. Local lore says that during particularly fierce storms, monks believed sandal straps could double as makeshift rope to rescue belongings, though scholars still debate whether such improvisations were widespread or later romanticized. You half expect to use your strap in an improvised knot, but for now you steady each footfall, sandals gripping the wet ground. The rain intensifies in waves, and water rushes down the slopes, carrying leaves, petals, and occasionally a solitary sandal knocked loose. You spot one swept into a swirl of water, straw sole bobbing like a life raft. Without hesitation, you lean in. Extend a careful hand, and retrieve it before it drifts out of reach. The strap feels soggy but intact, and you pause to consider whose foot once wore it and why it ventured into the flood. Buddhists still debate whether retrieving lost items honors attachments or fosters compassion when need arises. Here, the act feels both, a simple rescue and a lesson in caring for what once belonged to another. You tuck the wet sandal under your arm as you continue uphill. The group moves as a quiet current, each person attentive to the next's balance. You recall earlier gatherings, the sandal exchange, the Hall of Lost Sandals, and realize this storm now stitches its own story into that tapestry. The thunder rolls, and lightning flickers behind distant ridges, illuminating soaked foliage and glinting sandals strewn like scattered memories. You reach a small wooden bridge spanning a swollen stream. The water roars beneath, frothing around submerged rocks. A monk steps forward, testing each plank, sandals creaking with cautious pressure. You follow in his footsteps, focusing on steady breathing as your sandal soles press into the slick wood. The bridge sways gently under the weight of water's song below. A light joke surfaces, at least this bridge provides natural white noise for your meditation. You exhale into the storm's rhythm. Once across, you pause to wring out your robe and pat water from your sandals. The group gathers on higher ground, shivering slightly but unharmed. A senior monk points to the path ahead. Noting a cluster of sandals tangled in vines and mud, victims of an unexpected flash flood earlier. Together, you approach, and each monk helps free a shoe from the debris. Some soles are torn, others surprisingly intact. You hold one up, its shape familiar, strap worn smooth, as if waiting to be reunited. A mainstream practice emerges, historically. Monks often formed retrieval parties after storms to salvage personal items and communal goods, viewing the effort as communal service and a practice of diligence. You feel the energy of shared purpose even as rain continues to fall. Each rescued sandal is offered a momentary inspection, a silent bow to its journey, before being set aside to dry. An odd anecdote drifts in one remote monastery. A monk reportedly used collected mud from flooded trails to make ink for a poem about the storm, though scholars still debate whether that poem exists or is a later invention. You smile at the image. Mud and words mingling as expressions of impermanence. You imagine the poem, lines written in watery strokes that blur and bleed over time. The rain begins to ease, shifting from a torrent to a gentle patter. You notice the trail glistening with fresh life, leaves shimmer, moss deepens in green, petals cling to branches. The storm's passage feels like a cleansing breath. You and the others place the recovered sandals on rocks to drain, each pair now bearing silt that tells of its own voyage. Buddhists still debate whether such displays of battered items serve as reminders of hardship or symbols of resilience. Here, you sense both. These sandals may never look pristine again, but they remain serviceable and meaningful. Each pair speaks of journeys interrupted, of paths reclaimed. You continue along the ridge where earlier winds whispered lessons. Now the post-storm breeze feels charged with freshness, carrying scents of wet earth and blooming flowers awakened by rain. You step carefully, sandals leaving faint impressions in soft mud. The ground yields underfoot, reminding you that stability often arises from flexibility. A novice teases, "Next time, we'll practice water walking meditation, just hope the path doesn't float away." Laughter ripples through the group, a gentle melody amid damp silence. The humor lightens the aftermath, reminding you that community weathers storms together and finds joy even when feet are soggy. As you descend toward the monastery again, you pass a small shrine where fresh lotus blossoms float in a bowl of rainwater. The petals drift slowly, swirling in patterns shaped by raindrops. You kneel and cup a blossom in your hand, noting its softness despite being soaked. It feels like the storm's gift, beauty resilient to upheaval. A monk offers you a sip of warm tea brewed with ginger and lemongrass, its heat a welcome contrast to the damp chill. You drink slowly, savoring the comforting warmth. Buddhists still debate whether such warming drinks aid post-retreat recovery or are simply pleasant comforts. Here, you accept both possibilities as truth in harmony. You slip off your sandals and place them by the shrine to dry. Watching them settle among the lotus petals feels symbolic. After journeys through floods and storms, rest arrives in gentle stillness. The courtyard, glistening with raindrops, seems to sigh in relief. As twilight deepens, lanterns are lit, their glow reflecting off wet surfaces in soft pools of light. You slip into your quarters. Sandals drying at the entrance, and feel gratitude for community, resilience, and the lessons carried by every soaked soul. The storm has passed, but its teachings linger. That loss can turn to discovery, and scattered souls can be gathered into shared stories. You wake to a pale dawn light filtering through paper windows, the air still carrying the faint scent of rain-washed earth and lotus petals. Your soaked sandals from last night rest nearby, drying slowly but already feeling more familiar as they soften in the morning warmth. You slip them on, feeling each glistening thread and patch reminding you of the storm's lessons. With each step, you sense continuity from soaked ridge trails to this new day's path. The courtyard is quiet except for the gentle drip of water from eaves and the distant calls of early birds greeting a fresh sky. You follow a narrow corridor toward what the monks call the observatory of quiet skies, not a high tower with telescopes, but an open terrace framed by wooden beams where one can watch both sunrise and subtle celestial movements. It feels like a place for both awe and introspection. A senior monk greets you, motioning to sit on a low bench as the sky shifts from gray to pale gold. He points upward to faint stars still lingering before the sun fully rises. Here, he says softly, we observe not to master the heavens but to remember our smallness. You nod, feeling the weight of that invitation as you breathe in the crisp morning air. Buddhists still debate whether ancient monastics incorporated astronomical observations for calendrical purposes or if such practices emerged later as cross-cultural exchanges. Yet many monasteries did note lunar phases to schedule festivals and retreats. You imagine monks long ago charting the moon's shape with simple instruments, their hands guided by patience rather than precision. The terrace's wooden floorboards are cool beneath your sandals, and you press your palm against the grain, recalling the polishing you did days ago alongside the abbot. The texture feels like a silent handshake across time. A light joke drifts in, why did the monk avoid dating? Because he was more interested in phases of the moon than phases of relationships. You smile at the thought, the humor gentle enough to blend with the stillness. As dawn brightens, the senior monk retrieves a small bowl of water and places floating petals inside. He invites you to watch how the petals drift as the light changes. Observe their movement, he whispers. They teach impermanence in motion. You lean forward, noticing how each ripple around a petal seems guided by unseen currents, much like the storm's flow shifting sandals downstream. The petals circle and separate, reminding you of the Hall of Lost Sandals where lone shoes awaited journeys resumed or ended. Did you know, in medieval Southeast Asian monasteries, novices sometimes used simple sundials carved from wood to mark chanting schedules, though exact historical prevalence remains unclear, and scholars still debate the accuracy of surviving references. Whether instrument or imagination, the practice reflects the monastic blend of practical timekeeping and contemplative rhythm. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the cool breeze that carries faint incense from a distant shrine, mingling with wet earth and morning blossoms. The terrace feels suspended between earth and sky, inviting you to sense both groundedness and expansiveness. You open your eyes to see the horizon blush with sunrise, a soft gradient of pink and gold spilling across distant peaks. The senior monk gestures toward a simple wooden chart, concentric circles etched into a board, marking solstices, equinoxes, and certain auspicious days tied to monastic observances. He explains that knowing these markers helped plan meditation retreats and festivals, aligning practice with nature's cycles rather than imposing artificial schedules. Buddhists still debate whether aligning retreats with celestial events enhances mindfulness or distracts practitioners with extraneous detail. But here the chart is less about precision and more about connection to larger rhythms. You trace a finger along the circles, feeling the carved grooves beneath your touch. The texture resonates like the soles of your sandals that have pressed into many paths, now guiding you toward inner pathways. A light joke surfaces. I try to schedule my nap by the solstice, but it turns out my sleep cycles prefer spontaneity. You laugh softly, the sound merging with distant temple bells welcoming the day. Above, a few early birds circle, their calls fading as sunlight strengthens. The senior monk points upward, see how they navigate by instinct rather than instruments. Sometimes our own inner compass guides us better than any chart. You consider this, remembering how after the storm, you instinctively rescued that stray sandal rather than overthinking the act. Compassion and presence propelled you more than doctrine. A strange detail drifts in. Some remote desert monasteries once used shapes of clouds at dawn to predict weather for travel plans, interpreting patterns as omens, though historians and meteorologists still debate the reliability of such folk observations and whether they influenced monastic journeys. You imagine monks gazing at shifting cloudscapes, reading nature's subtle signs while cultivating calm acceptance that plans may change. The terrace warmth increases as the sun climbs. You feel the gentle heat on your cheeks, contrasting with the cool wood underfoot. The senior monk invites you to stand and face east, where morning light falls directly on a carved symbol of a lotus blossoming. Let each sunrise be a reminder, each day unfolds anew, like petals opening in silence. You inhale, letting the metaphor settle in your lungs. You step closer to the terrace edge, looking down at the monastery cloaked in morning mist retreating before the sun. The sight feels like nature's own commentary on the monastic life below, steady structures anchored in shifting conditions. Your sandals, now partially dried, press into the wood with comfort, reminding you that even familiar things can feel fresh in new contexts. Buddhists still debate whether structured observances tied to celestial markers risk ritualism or deepen practice by embedding it in nature's vast dance. Perhaps the truth lies in balance, using charts as gentle guides without losing spontaneity. You glance at the wooden chart again, appreciating its simplicity, concentric rings marking time. Much like the concentric sandals gardens you walked through earlier, each ring a story. The senior monk kneels, setting out a small offering of fruit and blossoms on the terrace floor. A few slices of dawn-harvested melon and a handful of jasmine buds. For the sky's generosity, he says. You join him in a silent bow, feeling gratitude for this shared ritual acknowledging the day's gift. The fruit tastes cool and sweet, the jasmine scent lingers on your tongue. A gentle breeze stirs prayer flags overhead, carrying their faint colors into motion. You watch them dance and think, each flag, like each sandal, catches the wind differently, yet all contribute to the tapestry of sound and color. A light joke surfaces. If prayer flags could talk, they'd probably gossip about which direction the wind favors today. You chuckle, the humor light and unobtrusive. The sun now fully risen. The senior monk signals that the observance concludes. You sit quietly for a moment longer, absorbing the terrace's calm, then rise to leave. As you walk back through the courtyard, your sandals feel more than footwear, they feel companions reminding you of the storm's resilience, the hall's stories, and now this sunrise's promise. You pass the drying sandals by the shrine, noticing how they glow faintly in the morning light, each one echoing lessons of journeys taken and yet to come. The day ahead holds its own unknown paths, but you feel equipped, guided by presence, history, and the sky's gentle rhythms. You follow a narrow corridor scented faintly with resin and old cloth, arriving at a low table strewn with tools, needles carved from bone, lengths of jute fiber, scraps of leather and straw, patches of cloth dyed earthy colors. You kneel beside an elderly craftsman monk who offers you a simple sandal sole, worn but intact, and motions for you to sit and learn. The air is calm, as if this small room holds its breath in anticipation of your first stitch. You slip off your sandals and set them nearby, feeling their familiarity mingle with curiosity about renewal. A mainstream historical fact surfaces. In many early Buddhist communities, monks were expected to mend their own robes and sandals as part of daily chores, cultivating humility and self-reliance. You pick up a needle, thin, slightly curved, and thread it with a sturdy fiber cord. The tactile connection between fiber and needle feels almost intimate, like greeting an old friend. Buddhists still debate whether these mendings serve primarily as practical skills or as embodied metaphors for healing the mind, yet here, as you hold the tools, the question gently fades into your awareness rather than demanding immediate resolution. The craftsman monk watches you with calm eyes. He indicates a small tear in the sole's edge. You place the sole on your lap, feeling its texture, rough where it's frayed, smooth where it's been patched before. An odd detail drifts in. Some monasteries once used tree sap mixed with ashes as adhesive for sandal repair, joking that it bound both shoe and spirit in a sticky lesson of impermanence. You imagine mixing sticky sap with ash by moonlight, the scent smoky and sweet, and smile at the thought of ancient workshops doubling as alchemy labs for humility. You begin stitching, pushing the needle through the sole's edge and pulling the fiber snug. Each pull feels like anchoring presence in your fingertips. A light sarcasm whispers, "Sure, you might prefer autopilot tasks. But try mindful mending, there's no undo button here." You laugh softly at your own thought, the humor a gentle ripple in the stillness. As you work, your breathing settles into a steady rhythm, matching the gentle pull and release of the needle. The craftsman hums a slow tune, its melody wordless yet familiar, a callback to earlier chants you heard in the meditation hall. The stitch closes the tear bit by bit, and you notice how your mind, which earlier wandered through storms and sunrise observances, now focuses completely on the fiber's tension and the sole's edge. The present moment expands, past footsteps, lost sandals, and dawn's light converge here in each stitch. Buddhists still debate whether mindfulness arises spontaneously in any activity or requires formal meditation first. This practice suggests both. Your stitch is meditation, and the calm from prior sessions enhances your focus now. You pause to inspect your work. The patch holds, but the fiber loops form a visible line of care. It reminds you of scars on ridges you traversed during the storm, marks of endurance and renewal. Another light joke surfaces. Maybe these sandals will come with a "patched by you" label, Artisanal Humility Edition. You smile at the playful notion. The craftsman monk offers a scrap of cloth for an additional patch over the sole's top. You fold it carefully and position it, feeling its soft weave against the coarser sole. He points to a small bundle of lavender tucked nearby, used to scent repaired sandals so feet remember gratitude rather than discomfort. You tuck a few sprigs under the patch, breathing in the subtle floral note. The scent mingles with your awareness. Each step in these sandals will now carry a quiet reminder of care. An odd anecdote emerges. In a remote Himalayan retreat, a monk once mended sandals so meticulously that villagers believed the repaired shoes possessed healing properties, wearing them to ease aching joints during pilgrimages. Scholars still debate whether this was literal belief or symbolic teaching about the power of attention, but the story lingers in your mind as a gentle invitation. Even mundane acts can carry unexpected significance. Your stitch complete, you tie a small knot and trim excess fiber. The sole looks sturdier, and the patch holds like a promise. You experiment by pressing the repaired edge with your thumb, noting its resilience. The craftsman nods approvingly, then gestures for you to test them on. You slip your foot in. Feeling the sole's contours rebalanced, the strap's repaired area comfortable and secure. The sensation is subtle but profound. Familiar ground beneath your foot now feels renewed. Buddhists still debate whether repairing old things fosters clinging to the past or cultivates respectful continuity. Here, as you walk, the repaired sandal seems neither tether nor distraction but a companion shaped by both past wear and present care. You take a few steps around the room, each footfall gentle, mindful, as if greeting the floor anew. The craftsman monk watches, eyes shining softly with shared understanding. 3 light jokes drift in. Perhaps the sandal will blog about its makeover on ancient monastic forums. Maybe future novices will see your patch style and think it's a new Zen trend. Or imagine sandals having a beauty contest where the most mindfully mended pair wins. You laugh quietly, the humor weaving into the moment without breaking its calm. You sit again, removing the sandal to inspect the inside. The lavender sprigs have infused a faint scent. You press them lightly against your palm, remembering how earlier, in the herbal garden, scents guided your rest. Repairing sandals with scented patches feels like combining those lessons, healing body, mind, and memory in every stitch. The craftsman offers you another sole, this one from a child novice whose sandals frayed quickly. He gestures for you to help reinforce it. You take the sole and notice how small it is, its shape evoking youthful footsteps. You stitch carefully, imagining each stitch supporting a young seeker learning to walk the path. A mainstream practice arises. Older monks often guided novices in mending their own shoes, teaching patience and responsibility. You sense how repairing someone else's sandal becomes an act of service, each stitch weaving compassion into the fabric of daily life. As you finish that sole, you tie the fiber and hold the tiny sandal in your palm. Its repaired sole now seems stronger for the care invested. You place it gently back in the stack, feeling gratitude for the chance to support another's journey. The craftsman monk bows slightly, conveying shared respect. You glance around the workshop. Shelves lined with sandals at various stages of mend, tools resting like silent teachers waiting to guide hands. The room's energy is calm yet alive, each sole represents a story of travel, wear, loss, and renewal. You recall the Hall of Lost Sandals, the Hall of Unreturned Soles, and the Garden Spirals. This workshop feels like the heart of transformation, where wear becomes wisdom through mindful attention. An odd detail surfaces, a fringe belief held by some novices that if a sandal is mended with a repetitive mantra whispered during each stitch, the wearer may carry extra resilience in times of hardship. Scholars still debate whether such whispered intent influences practice or if it's simply a poetic expression of mindfulness. But you feel the truth in the notion, intention imbues action with meaning. You finish your work for now, placing tools aside and bowing to the craftsman. You slip your repaired sandal back on and stand, feet grounded yet light. As you walk out of the workshop, each step feels like a meditation in motion, a reminder that healing and renewal arise through attentive care of small things. Outside, the corridor opens into soft evening light. Your repaired sandals carry subtle reminders of care and presence in every tread. You realize that the act of mending has renewed not just the soul but your own appreciation for simple, deliberate practice. The path ahead continues, and with each step, you weave this lesson into the unfolding journey. You leave the workshop behind, repaired sandals snug on your feet, and follow the slow curve of the path that climbs toward the monastery's ancient stupa. The air carries a faint scent of incense mixed with damp earth, a reminder of storms past and morning observances. Each step feels resonant now, your feet know the mended soles beneath them. And you walk with a gentle attentiveness born from countless scenes, forest ridges, sandal halls, kitchens, baths, gardens, libraries, observatories, and storms. This is the final walk to the stupa, where so many journeys converge. The path is lined with weathered stone markers, their inscriptions softened by time. You trace one with your fingertip as you pass. A dedication by a monk who walked this route daily before dawn, reciting a mantra with each footfall. Buddhists still debate whether such repetitive practice deepens insight or risks rote habit. Yet here you sense the mantra's echo in your own breath, a soft rhythm guiding you upward. Sunlight filters through tall pines, creating shifting patterns on the path that dance like memories of previous steps. An odd detail surfaces, in one remote hermitage. It's said that monks sometimes scattered crushed sandalwood chips along this final approach so the fragrance would lead pilgrims as if the path itself sighed, "Keep going." You inhale, catching a hint of wood and smoke, and imagine those chips underfoot, quietly dissolving with each stride. The slope steepens gently, and you feel the mended sole's cushion beneath your heel, no longer raw but shaped by care. A light joke drifts in, "I used to think final destinations were dramatic, turns out they're just another step if your sandals hold up." You smile, letting the humor settle like a soft footfall in the heart. Ahead, the stupa emerges through the trees. Its white dome glowing in dappled light, topped by a golden spire catching sunbeams. The structure seems timeless, as though grown from the earth itself. You recall the story of an ancient artisan who carved the initial foundation stones using only simple tools, convinced that humility in creation honors the path. A mainstream historical fact emerges. Stupas have existed since at least the 3rd century BCE, originally serving as reliquaries for relics of the Buddha and later evolving into focal points for devotion and pilgrimage across Asia. The knowledge settles in your mind like a gentle anchor. As you approach, the atmosphere shifts, the air feels sacred, as if countless prayers have softened it over centuries. You notice the faint murmur of pilgrims chanting as they circumambulate the base, their voices low and steady. Each rotation seems to carry layers of intention, gratitude, aspiration, remembrance. You join the slow circle, aligning your steps with theirs. Buddhists still debate whether walking clockwise around a stupa stems from cosmic symbolism or practical path design. Some say it mimics the sun's journey, others see deeper metaphors in directional movement. You let the uncertainty cradle you, focusing on each foot's contact with the ground, heel, arch, ball, toes. Your mended sandal whispers comfort with every shift. A breeze stirs prayer flags strung above, their colors faded but spirited, casting mottled shadows on the dome. You recall earlier memory. In the archive of Everyday Steps Garden, flags danced on sandals laid in spirals. Here, they dance on the stupa's form, symbols floating between earth and sky. The callback weaves continuity, reminding you that each pattern, whether of sandals or shadows, speaks of continuity and change. An odd anecdote surfaces. Some pilgrims leave behind single sandals at the stupa's entrance, believing that offering a sole signifies readiness to walk new paths in life. Scholars still debate whether this practice arose from genuine pilgrimage traditions or later poetic interpretations. But you feel its gesture resonant, offering what carries you forward toward transformation. You pause at a small shrine adjacent to the stupa, where a solitary sandal rests on a pedestal, a humble tribute left by someone long gone. You bow your head and press your palm against your chest, whispering a silent vow to carry the teachings encountered on this journey. The mended sandals on your feet feel like partners in this vow. The chanting shifts to a softer tone as dusk approaches. The stupa's golden spire catches the waning light, and you step aside to allow the next pilgrim to pass, noticing how your footsteps align with a larger flow of devotion. A light joke emerges. If enlightenment had a finish line, it'd probably be a circular track around a stupa, endless laps welcome. You chuckle softly, the humor blending with the hush. As you complete the circumambulation, you stand facing the stupa's doorless niche. Inside rests an image of the Buddha in meditative repose, serene and luminous. You step forward, barefoot now, removing your sandals in a final gesture of respect. The cool stone beneath your feet connects you directly to the ground, echoing the forest ridge where you walked barefoot earlier. The contrast between mended sandals and bare feet feels like two sides of the same practice: care for what carries you, and readiness to stand directly in presence. You kneel before the image, fingertips touching cool stone, recalling every stitch, every repair, every offering of sandals left behind in halls and gardens. An odd detail surfaces, in some traditions. Pilgrims leave behind written vows tucked inside repurposed sandal straps, believing the path continues in intention even after the physical shoe is gone. You close your eyes and imagine weaving your own vow into a sandal strap, an imprint of this journey's lessons. Buddhists still debate whether final acts of devotion at stupas yield tangible transformations or serve as symbolic milestones. Perhaps the act itself embodies both, a closing and an opening. You hold that tension in your breath as you rise, feeling steady yet light. You retrieve your sandals, mended, scented, storied, and slip them on once more. Each strap hugs your foot with familiar warmth, each sole holds echoes of every place you walked. As you stand, the stupa radiates a stillness that seeps into your bones. The sky shifts toward twilight, stars beginning to peek above the silhouette of the stupa. You step back, joining a few remaining pilgrims in silent reverence. The final walk to the stupa feels also like a new departure. From this sacred center, every path extends outward, each step an invitation to live the teachings in small, mindful acts. You take a final turn around the stupa, letting the circular motion embed deeper calm. The mended sandals beneath you, the memories in your mind, and the stupa's ancient presence converge in a moment beyond words, a cradle of humility, repair, loss, and renewal. As you descend the path back toward the monastery's heart, each footfall resonates with the promise of continued practice, walking gently, mending what's worn, offering what remains, and always returning to presence. The journey's culmination at the stupa becomes both an end and a beginning, guiding you to rest with a heart full of quiet wisdom. You stand beside a gently glowing pyre as dusk's last light wanes, the air warm with smoldering incense and distant chants drifting like embers into the sky. You probably won't survive the intensity of this moment without a calm heart, yet you remain present, drawn by the promise of a final teaching carried on a single sandal. Recall the repaired soles that guided you to the stupa, the hall of unreturned soles, the storm-washed sandals rescued in torrents, and every barefoot step tracing memory and renewal. Those echoes settle in your bones as you witness the cremation rite for an elder monk whose life embodied humility and care. Buddhists still debate whether relics surviving fire signify spiritual attainment or mere material anomaly, and that open question floats around you like soft smoke, inviting reflection rather than certainty. A mainstream historical fact surfaces: cremation has been a common funerary practice in many Buddhist cultures since ancient times. believed to help release attachment to the body and support cycles of rebirth. You inhale the mingled scents of sandalwood, charred wood, and burning cloth, grounding you in the ritual's gravity. Gentle sarcasm murmurs, "Sure, you think your bedtime candles are intense, but try a pyre lighting at dusk, no remote needed." 3 light jokes drift through your awareness. Perhaps the pyre's heat is the original sweat lodge for liberation. Maybe someone quipped that the monk's sandals earned their stripe surviving every path, and now a final test by fire. Or you imagine the sandal winking, as if saying, "I told you I'd outlast expectations." The elder's body, wrapped in simple robes and sandal straps, is placed upon the pyre. The wood crackles as flames rise, and you feel heat brush your face, like a stern yet comforting teacher. You notice one sandal's strap curling but the sole resisting the blaze. An odd detail emerges. In some stories, monks prepared multiple pairs for cremation, each meant to symbolize letting go of stages of life, yet sometimes only one sandal remains intact, sparking wonder and teaching. You watch ash drift upward, carrying questions about impermanence and continuity. As the fire subsides, embers glow like fading stars. The chanting quiets, replaced by the hush of night insects and the soft crackle of dying coals. You lean forward, senses alert. Among the ashes lies a single sandal, charred at the edges but unmistakably whole. The strap is singed but holding, the sole bearing scorch marks like a map of journeys completed. You kneel, fingertips brushing remaining heat, feeling both reverence and surprise. Buddhists still debate whether such survivals reflect karmic imprint or natural resilience of materials. The question itself becomes a gentle koan, guiding you inward rather than outside for answers. You recall the craftsman's workshop where you mended sawls with lavender and care, the hall of lost sandals where absence spoke volumes, and the observatory terrace where petals drifted with sunrise promise. Now this sandal remains as a final teacher, reminding you that even in apparent destruction, something endures. The teaching is neither literal nor miraculous alone but emerges in your open acceptance of mystery. A light joke surfaces: if sandals could talk after cremation, they'd probably hum a tune about resilience and late-night sock use. You smile, letting humor soften solemnity. You lift the sandal gently, noting its weight, lighter than memory yet heavier than emptiness. The texture under your fingers holds traces of fabric and soot, reminding you of both journey and release. You breathe in the smoky air, each inhale carrying lessons of impermanence. Everything burned yet something remains. That paradox cradles you like a lullaby. What's essential can survive transformation even when forms dissolve. Nearby, a novice offers a bowl of cooled water infused with petals gathered before sunrise. You sip, the cool liquid soothing your lips and reminding you of life's continuity beyond endings. The chanting resumes softly, a final dedication echoing through trees. You circle the pyre site, sandal in hand, aligning your steps with those of pilgrims who walk around stupas and sacred mounds. Each rotation honors both loss and the enduring essence beneath. You consider leaving the sandal here as an offering, a symbol that teaching survived death. Yet you also sense it belongs to the journey ahead. The elder's path continues in each step you take. You bow to the pyre's ashes, then rise, sandal clasped gently. The night sky glimmers overhead, stars reflecting impermanence and continuity in the same breath. You step away, sandal guiding you toward new paths, its survival a soft reminder that transformation carries both ending and seed of renewal. Now the pace softens into a gentle whisper as you walk away from the pyre toward a quiet clearing, the sandal cradled in your hand like a final verse of a long poem. The night air cools your skin, carrying the faint scent of ash mingled with lotus petals placed earlier at the shrine. Each breath feels like a soft wave, washing over memory's shore and inviting you to rest in the space between loss and awareness. Questions need not be answered, they can drift like embers floating upward, illuminating the darkness without demanding movement. You sense how the sandal's endurance after fire mirrors inner resilience. Even when forms change, the essence lingers as a gentle guide. The surrounding trees murmur with nocturnal life, their whispers merging with distant chants now fading into silence. Your footsteps on the soft earth are light. As if guided by the sandal's quiet teaching, walk gently, honor transformation, and hold mystery with tender openness. The ground feels steady beneath you, reminding you that every path walked becomes part of a larger tapestry weaving endings into beginnings. Let any unresolved thoughts rest alongside you like companions in stillness, each doubt a subtle cue toward presence rather than distraction. As you settle onto a simple mat beneath the stars, the sandal rests nearby, its form a silent beacon. The cool breeze carries the memory of fire's warmth and the promise of dawn's renewed light. Allow the hush to deepen, senses soften, thoughts slow. And the final teaching, endurance within change, melts into calm awareness. Breathe slowly, each exhale releasing tension, each inhale welcoming gentle peace. Rest in this cradle of wisdom, where endings become quiet openings, and the lesson of the sandal that didn't burn becomes your lullaby. Sweet dreams as you drift beyond form into the stillness that carries all journeys onward.